Good morning, Matt.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm excited to be here.
Me too. I was communication going back with the group and I've really enjoyed the content um, that I've been reading. I think I've been in that field of education for so long and read so much about, curriculum instruction, different things like that. It's really a nice shift in looking at different businesses and organizations. So I'm
Oh,
really
yes.
enjoying it so far.
Yes. Good morning, Brenda.
Morning, Professor. Lam. Good morning, colleagues. Good to see you. I've really been looking forward to this day.
I have too. I'm excited.
Thank,
This is
thank
the
you so
time that
much.
we get. This is the time that we get to play. This is our fun time. This is
Oh,
something I look
it's so
forward to.
exciting. So very exciting. I can tell you probably I've not had a sleep. I was really looking forward to this class.
Oh yeah.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, Brenda. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
It's nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too, Matt. Thank you.
Okay. Let me see. Get back to it. Okay. We're here. We'll wait a minute till we get everybody to join us. All right. Okay. 6-3. All right. I hope everybody's not having problems getting on today. Everything seemed to be working this morning. I was on an early Zoom. She had a little problem, but hopefully that was just her. And so we'll wait another minute here. Let me check my emails and texts. People usually let me know if they're having problems. Well, that's bad news. Lady that I was in a meeting with on Wednesday tested positive for COVID this morning. So hopefully she'll be okay. I guess it's going around. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Big day at the web today.
It
Got a
is
lot
a
of
big
things
day.
going on. I'm guessing that you're going to be busy this afternoon.
Yes, I am.
Well,
We're just
okay.
hoping the rain doesn't
Yeah,
filter.
doesn't blow through. Bad weather, different times this week.
Yep.
But hopefully it'll hold off on Parents Weekend. That's a big weekend. That's a big recruiting weekend.
It is.
You know, I think about one of our tasks this week, writing about specifically when you wrote about effective versus efficient. Doesn't matter how effective you are if you're not efficient, if you don't get anybody.
Yep.
So, that's a big part of what you have to do in university life. Good
That's
morning,
very
Lonnie.
true.
Big part of that. We're going to talk about all of those different things today. I've taken some notes. I actually read all the things that y'all write, and assessment's supposed to drive instruction. So hopefully we can. I finally got my shell fixed yesterday. Thanks to Bob for doing that. First of all, apologies for not responding immediately, but I couldn't, and so he got it fixed yesterday. So everything's good. We should be good to go for the semester. We finally got everybody registered. There were some bugs getting folks registered and getting shells working correctly. Even once we had students in them, we couldn't see your work for a while, but that all got fixed yesterday. So we're ready to go. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're ready to roll. Good morning. I'm Deol from Gardner Webb. Thank you for being with me. A quick overview. We'll go from 9 to 1 today. We'll break about every hour for 15 minutes. If I get rolling and we don't stop, remind me that we need to. So as we always do this morning, I will start with each of you. Now I'm just going around my screen. You've done your introductions, but again, if you will tell everybody who you are, where you work, what you do, in a brief round of robin this morning, we'll kick off the morning. So Matt, you're to my top left. Tell us who you are and what you do.
All right. My name is Matt Dye. I live in Mint Hill. Moved to North Carolina 6 years ago from Franklin, Tennessee. I've been in the field of special education for 18 years, both as a special education teacher, autism consultant, and then also an EC program specialist. And now I work as what we call an ancillary support coordinator. So I work with our behavior support team, trying to develop an autism team within Rowan, Salisbury schools, as well as assistive technology, and then a few other small teams, deaf and hard of hearing, vision, audiology. So over the last 2 years, been really trying to learn a lot about how to efficiently and effectively lead teams. And so that really, excuse me, drove me to want to pursue this doctorate. So
Excellent. One of my postmaster students who graduated with me this summer just took a director job in Rowan, Salisbury, Jackie Tinsley. And good place. Her husband also works, I think, trying to remember if he works in Rowan, Salisbury, but anyway, good place, good people there. Working in exceptional children is a difficult task, to say the least. So I appreciate your efforts in what you do. That's one of those areas that organizational leadership could really assist. There's a lot of federal law behind that. That's my weekly gig. I teach law and finance to that group of folks who are at the level that you are in that job. And I actually just turned the machine on. I've got an expert that works with me that does that. But we're glad to have you this morning. Appreciate what you do.
thank
Brenda?
Thank you, Dr. Lam, and to my colleagues and team, good morning. My name is Brenda Simiyu. I'm from Kenya, that is in East Africa, specifically in Africa. I work with a public university called Koitalel Samoei University. It's a constituent college of the leading university in Kenya known as Nairobi University. And basically, the reason why I am here is just to pick best practices that will help improve Africa as a whole, because there are challenges. I all know that you know that Kenya is a third world country. And basically, when we talk about education, we are basically trying to come up with models that will improve the educational system in Kenya. And so the reason why I'm here is that I want to network, I want to benchmark, and I want to get the best practices that will improve my university upon my return, and also help the society come to a level where this country is. I would want to say that I'm so much impressed that I've been listening to the videos, going through the notes, and I want to believe that at the end of this course, when I go back home, I'll be carrying lots of information that will improve my university. My background is in human resource, but basically I work as a deputy registrar, planning and strategy. And my functions in that university is basically to ensure that the implementation of the strategic plan is done. I also deal with policy formulation and also performance management, among other functions. My interest is to help leaders, and specifically women, because there is this culture in my country that women are not supposed to lead. Our place is in the kitchen. But I'm a proud woman that this time round, I'm seated in this class from a far country, just to come to learn and also to help other women in my country not to shy in taking up leadership positions.
Okay. I think she's coming back. Let's give her a second.
Sorry for that. And so basically, I'm really looking forward to networking and also learn the culture of this place. It's not been easy since I came in. Settling down has been a challenge, the culture and all that, but I want to believe that I'm in safe hands with Dr. Lamb, and together with my team, you're going to give me the support that I need to learn the culture and just to settle down. And at the end of it all, go back home with my PhD. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Brenda. That's a lot of pressure on me, I can tell you. You're doing God's work. I can tell you that. I'm reminded of Matt's post that he talked about this week, one of the books. And one of the things that we talk about all the time, Brenda, in the DEL program is you lead from where you are. Doesn't have to be a title. Matt referenced a book that's really good on that in his post this week. It's leadership is an activity. It's not a position or a title. And to being in my hands now, you understand that you are now the Magnificent Seven, my new Magnificent Seven. I just finished with a group, my Magnificent Seven, this summer, and I'm going to boast for a few minutes here. They were 7 for 7. They all finished on time, completed their dissertations, and all have their doctorate now. That is our goal. That was a later discussion this morning, but I'll go ahead and jump into that right now. You are now mine. If you are mine, you're going to be the best, period. My folks get through, period. My job, if I have to, you probably notice, you think, well, why is he sitting so close to the screen? I'm not. I'm this big. If I have to carry you, I can carry you 2 at a time. But you're going to get through it. That is my job, period, is to get you through. You now belong to me. I don't take a group every year. I take a group every 3 years. This is my turn to take a 3. I've had 6, 7, and 7. And you will be with me. I will be with you for good or for bad, but you will finish on time if I have to carry you. And you will learn something and you will be great. There's enough average leaders in the world. I don't have time for that. I've only got so many days left on this earth. I can tell you, I am this old. I'll tell you how old I am. In my work bag here, me. I have to have visual aids and props. I'm old, can't remember stuff. In my work bag, there it is, right there in my work bag. This is my daily Bible. I'm so old. This Bible was given to me in junior high school in 1966. That's how old I am. This Bible was given to me. I'll read the date. On February 13th, 1966. It's been with me every day since. My point in this Bible is I'm old, but also there is a responsibility that comes when you take doctoral students. You have that responsibility, just like it's my responsibility to keep this Bible. This charge was given to me ever how many years ago, 60 years ago nearly now, this charge that as a Christian that you're responsible for people. And that Christianity moves over, regardless, I don't care what your faith is, just have one, because that's what's going to pull you through. But you are responsible. That's what your faith means, that you're responsible to others. And if you're put in a leadership position, it's not about you, it's about them. And so if you're training to be a leader, that's the first thing I want to impress upon you is the responsibility that comes with that, to be a servant leader, not to be a transactional leader, but to be a servant leader. Our case study was about a young man who is a transactional leader, and that's bringing him problems. He's not a servant. When we talk about our case study today, I have that outlined in our notes, and we'll talk about that. But leadership means that you accept the responsibility for the people that you lead, period. Whatever it takes, that's what you do. And so I'm telling you right now, whatever it takes for me to get you the Magnificent Seven, the new Magnificent Seven, I'm going to call y'all the new Magnificent Seven. Whatever it takes is what we're going to do. Because that's the responsibility that leaders take. Now's a good time to say this. If you don't want to do that, this is not the program for you. I want you all to be with me and understand that you have a responsibility as a follower too in this leadership continuum here, in this interaction that we have. You have responsibility as a follower, but your biggest responsibility is learning that leadership is about being a servant. It's not a position or a title or a door or an office. It's about a series of activities, and that you have to put your followers in front of you. Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. I'm not going to wash your feet, but I'll carry you if I have to. I can tell you that right now. We're going to get through. We are going to get through in 3 years on time. And we're going to know something, and we're going to be able to have impact in our organizations and in society as well. And I like that what you said about Brenda. You're trying to have impact at your university, but you're looking for a broader scope. That's what leadership is versus management. Management's just is local. Leadership is a more global perspective. And I thank you for that. Darius, tell us about you.
Good morning, everybody. I am Darius Campbell. I am Matt was talking about his work with Rowan Salisbury School Systems, but I'm a native of Salisbury, North Carolina. I actually graduated from Salisbury High School. And then I went on to graduate from North Carolina A&T with a bachelor's and master's degree. So Gary, it's all. We'll see how that goes today. So Gary and I, our universities are rival schools, and we actually have a big game today. So I look forward to seeing you next class to talk about that. But outside of that, my background was in higher education for about 6 years. I worked in recruitment and retention before transitioning. Now I serve as one of the executive leaders at our assembly, a church here in Greensboro. I live in Winston-Salem. And so I am here in this program because I'm coming into the roles that I'm in now, and then the ones that I've been in, kind of always been in the space where structure needed to be provided, leadership needed to be given to others. And I'm looking forward to learning effective, proven ways and strategies to be able to effectively do so. And then take that out and help other organizations, whether it's churches, whatever, kind of do the same thing, consulting, things like that. So I'm glad to be here. Look forward to growing with everybody. And yeah.
Well, welcome, Darius. My 8 o'clock meeting this morning with one of my 751s, I've got 22 that are in dissertation phase right now in the DEOL program that are on track to finish this coming summer. I'm their methodologist. That's what I do with them. And so I met with Monique Kirk this morning, and Monique's working in church as well. Retention and recruitment of younger church members. As you know, churches are dying. They're literally dying because, my generation, baby boomers from 1945 to 1959, we're the last generation that actually goes to church as a part of that's what we do. And young people are not going. And so Monique's getting ready to propose in the next few weeks here, but we've been working with her and her church. We've developed a survey, but I've got a number working in churches. I've got 2 that are working kind of the same thing right now. But again, God's work. How can we increase membership of young? You can't have old members if you don't have young ones. And so that's what we're working with Monique right now. And so we do a lot of church work in DEOL, a lot. And I like that. Mainly because I could use some churching up myself, but again, that would be, I'm guessing, would be your partnership is with there at your church and having to do with membership and those kinds of things. And we'll talk about partnerships in a few minutes. That's one of the things I've got on the list to do this morning. But I am proud that you're here. We love partnering with churches. We love that notion. We are a Christian institution, and we want to extend our service, most specifically to public schools and churches. That's where our sweet spot is, or I think it is, and that's where we tend to do the most good as service to our community. Pro Deo et Humanitate. That's Gardner Webb's motto. Service for God and humanity. That'd be churches and schools. That's who we are. It's who we're supposed to be. And we hope that that's who you become or who you are now. And we strengthen that in you as we go. Barry, leadership coach. He's got it right there in the title on the screen.
Good morning, everybody. Of course, my name is Barry Elliott. I am a native of Baltimore, but I've been in the Carolinas since 2006. I've been in Charlotte most recently for the last 12 years. My goal is, as you see, I'm a leadership coach, but I've also been in ministry. Next year, it'll be 30 years. I actually preached my initial sermon the day after my senior prom, believe it or not. I serve on the pastoral staff in my church and I'm over congregational care, but I'm also over leadership training. So I have a major concern for leaders. So that's why I'm here, because I believe that I can grow. I don't know it all. And as a matter of fact, the older I get, the more I realize how much I don't know. So that's really my purpose with being in the program.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a great reason to be here, to grow. You can't grow your organization, you can't grow your followers unless you can grow as a leader. And that's the notion here, is to be able to grow yourself so that you can help others to grow as well. That's the servant leadership part of this. And so, when we do our Sunday, when we're together, I do a trilogy. And you'll have to hear my sermon. It won't be as good as Barry's, I'm quite sure. But you'll have to, we go to church on Sunday. So when we're in class on Sunday morning, you'll have to have church with me. But my trilogy is be a servant leader, live your life with integrity, and build your life on a foundation of faith, whatever your faith is. And to Barry's point is that's for all of us. We have to continue to do that as we grow as leaders. Otherwise, we will not be able to nourish the followers that we have. So the point is even as leaders, we got to remember those things and continue to do those things ourselves before we can do them with others. Gary?
Good morning, everyone.
Good
My
morning.
name is Gary Wood. My name is Gary Wood Jr., originally from PG County, Maryland. I came down here in North Carolina for my undergraduate in 2015. Graduated from North Carolina Central University, went to NC State to get my master's. Currently, I'm working in grants and contracts on the county side, but I also do a lot of volunteer work at nonprofits. And so my overall goal is to help the nonprofits in the RDU become better organizations to serve the constituents. So that's my goal.
Okay. A worthy goal. And we'll talk about that. And so looking down the road, when you get to 738, your methodology class, your first case study is going to be about nonprofits. And we're going to talk about that today as well, about developing metrics, quantitative and qualitative, effective versus efficient. What we talk about, that's our case, one of our topics for today, is helping nonprofits understand that they must be both effective and efficient, qualitative and quantitative, and they have to develop metrics for each. Quantitative is how many people you serve. Qualitative is effective, how well do you serve them? that if you want to keep funding, especially grants, if you want to keep funding coming, then you know, the people who give you money want to know how many you serve. The people who are served want to know how well you're serving us. And so hopefully that you will learn that as we go through. To be effective working with nonprofits, you can't just focus on one or the other. You have to develop metrics for both. And that's kind of the secret to working with nonprofits. Most folks, leadership extends to one side or the other. To be effective, for you to help them, you have to be able to help them on both sides, or they won't be successful. And I'll tell stories as we go along the way. Okay, Leslie.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Leslie Villarose. I am originally from Rockville, Maryland. Went to undergrad at Lynchburg College, now University of Lynchburg, and did my master's work at Temple University in Philly. So I guess for the past 20 plus years, I've been working in multiple facets of higher education, specifically in the student services realm. I currently work at Gardner-Webb University. I'm the Vice President for Student Development and Dean of Students. And I'm really excited to be able to use this program to help continue, as Dr. Lamb said, to serve all my stakeholders, so the staff that works with me, the students, continue to be that effective leader and to be able to support the students and continue to grow in my professional career.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You know, I'm not an expert. I just stayed at the Holiday Inn last night, but what Leslie is she said something there that is insightful. She has to be both concerned with the people that she leads and then the people that they are working for. And that's that double perspective, effective and efficient. That's what you have to develop, that lens. You know, she has to be efficient in what she does with her group that she leads, but they have to be, you know, that they have to be, she has to be efficient in that, but they have to be effective with the group that they're working for, the students, as dean of students. If not, things don't go well. You know, retention is our big initiative at Gardner-Webb now, both at the graduate and undergraduate level, is retention. And that's about service. That's about being effective. You know, that's the notion here. Efficient and effective are two different things. Leaders have to understand that. If not, I mean, it's like sales. It's like service after the sale. The recruitment folks can get us people, but it's up to us then to add value, to be effective, so that they stay. I mean, that's the whole notion of student services. A long time ago in a land far, far away, when I was a graduate student, I worked in student services as well. That's what they do. You know, when you become, if you're a full-time graduate student, you know, I was a GTA to start with, and you teach, but you have to have a second job. Well, everybody usually goes to housing or student development or whatever. But what you learn is you're trying to be effective. You're trying to provide service. It doesn't do any good to get them if they leave. And so that's the whole notion. That's kind of that paradigm of efficient and effective. We're looking for efficiency within our group, but we've got to be effective for the group that we serve. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good description of that. I had that written down, that you've done that real well. And so, and Gary did a good job. We'll talk about that too. So that's the notion with that. All right. I know Lonnie's she's at a tennis match today, and I think she's down along the coast. Are you in Hilton Head, Lonnie? Can you hear me?
I am in Hilton Head. Yes. Very, very excited to be here.
It flooded the last time I was there. I hadn't been back.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we got one of those coastal storms the last time I was there, and And it was a bad. So tell us about you, Lonnie. I know that you're on your phone, but go ahead and give us your background.
Okay. My undergrad background is in psychology. I was working with children with Asperger's, so I had this keen interest to try to figure out what's happening in the brain. And then I decided I could do more work, more service with the kids in the classroom. So I entered into special education because I felt like the teachers, the regular ed teachers, weren't differentiating enough for our students with special needs. And so I started my master's in special ed, and then I decided that that wasn't exactly where I wanted to go. And so I just finished my master's in leadership because I felt like I could also help support teachers because I saw some leadership that wasn't quite conducive to the schools and the classrooms and then trickling down to the children. So I'm here because I would like to organize my own school, not a school system, but my own school that recruits underprivileged boys and helps them see a perspective of growth and a mindset of growth and being global leaders one day and continuing their education. So that is why I'm here.
Okay. Are you looking to do a KIPP model or a charter school model?
Charter school.
Charter school model.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you be looking to do this?
Now that is a good question. I'm located in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but I have always had a desire to go to Florida, so we'll see.
Okay. Well, not to get down in the weeds this morning, the inclusion model in exceptional children's classroom, again, that's one of those things that I have to work with on a weekly basis. But again, I bring in Josh Sane, who's an expert in that. He does that nationally, how to move from intervention MTSS into EC and how to integrate into inclusion classrooms. That's pretty much for those of you who are not in that business. Matt might probably understands this. We don't pull exceptional children anymore out of the classrooms. EC kids in public school and charters and privates, we send them to the regular classroom and send the teacher in with them. It's called an inclusion model. Problem is the inclusion teacher and the regular ed teacher are supposed to work as a team. That really doesn't happen. And so there are various other models that are popping up. That's what Lonnie's talking about. A lot of charters are popping up that are trying to address that issue. Now, people ask me all the time, why did we go to an inclusion model? Is it a better delivery model than the mainstream model that we had before? And the answer is no, it's not as good. And then people ask me the second question, well, why did we go to it? Well, because it saves 30% on costs. That's why we went to it. As the federal government, as you know, exceptional children is funded by the federal government. As they continue to pull back and pull resources back, we have to try to figure out a way to meet those individual education plans of those exceptional children. They all have IEPs, which is individual to them. How do we meet those in an environment where we're using 30% less money? It's a tough ask. Charter schools are doing that now. The problem with charter schools in North Carolina for them is all that the home district, say for example that Lonnie was in, she's in Winston-Salem. So Winston-Salem Forsyth schools, all they have to give her, even though she would be a public school, all they would have to give her is classrooms. That just usually they give them the old disused mobile units that they have. And that's kind of how you have to start. And then you have to raise money on your own to build that. Now, right down the road here, I'm pointing that way down to Huntersville. I'm in Lake Norman today in Cornelius at my primary residence. when we moved here 28 years ago, there was a little charter school that started, and when Hopewell was built on the other side of Huntersville, and they disbanded the trailer city at North Mecklenburg High School. They had 80 mobile units. They had more students out of the building than in. And when they built a new school, they gave Lake Norman Charter their disused mobiles, and they started on the side of 115 and a bunch of old mobile units that looked like homeless people had lived in, high school students. They now have a sparkling facility that's unbelievable. So the point of that is that if you serve your clients well, things will go well for you. They literally started in old disused mobile units, and now they have a nice school, multiple buildings, as any public school in Mecklenburg County. And there's 180 public schools here, by the way. 140,000 students, 150,000 students. And so it can be done if you serve your students well. If you know who you're serving and you serve them well and you do it efficiently, you can, it's not a pipe dream. It can be done. I've watched people do it. On the other side, that's the water right there at Lake Norman in the backyard, but right across the water is the little peninsula of Davidson Landing over there, but right past it is Langtree. They've got a charter school there. And of course, we've got Community School of Davidson right across the interstate on the other side of the water. We have a number of charters here. I mean, Langtree has a facility just like any other public facility. If you serve people well, you can do well. Now, there's other ones that have come and gone in this part of it that didn't understand that they had to serve their clients well. They were just political ideologues, and their kids were just being warehoused. That won't do. So if you need to learn to be effective and efficient. Efficient is the business side of it. Effective is what people get from you, and it can be done. I've seen charter schools grow. I'm a supporter of charter schools. People say, as a public school person, full disclosure, I did 32 years in public school before I retired and came to Garden Web, 12 years ago? Again, I'm not that old. This is my 45th year in the business. And so, but I support anything that serves kids, private, public, private. Pine Lake Prep is just right over there on 115, right out of Davidson. Their head of school, Andrew Museri, was one of my students at when Garden Web. We still had a facility in Statesville. We used to be up in Statesville. We had a very nice facility there until it closed in 2015. And but yes, we just got through with 2 that finished this summer from Lincoln Charter. Service is service, folks. That's the notion. I don't want to get down in the weeds on that, but the notion here is if you serve and serve well, you can grow businesses. You can help your community. You can help people, and that's what leadership is helping people. As we round out this morning, our job is to help people as leaders, to help them actualize, to grow on that Maslow scale. I know you all know Maslow's hierarchy, where they can self-actualize. That's our job, is to help those people. We help ourselves and grow along the way, hope. But that's the notion. So thank you for all being here. Thank you again for choosing Garden Web. I'll try to remember to say that every time I'm with you. We appreciate the business. All right, so I want to talk about this morning. I want to talk about your discussion board posts, and I want to highlight those. And so I'll pull them up if you can't remember them. I'm old. When I forget when I sleep. I don't sleep much, but I forget. So let me share my screen, and I'm going to go to that. And I took some notes. This is a good introduction for us this morning. And so on our discussion boards, let me highlight the first one here that I want to. Let's see. All right, Matt, you're up. What I loved about Matt's post is you know, lead from where you stand. What we say in the DEOL program is lead from where you are. Tell us about that, Matt.
Well, in trying to develop leaders within our schools and empower our related service. So we have a lot of leads within our department. So we have, you know, lead for speech and language pathology. We have lead for OT, and in different areas. And one of the things that we've really been focusing on, and this really comes from our director, Dr. Elizabeth Mitchum. She's really kind of brought this. She went through Gardner Webb.
She did my add-on class. Elizabeth did. She was a star.
Yeah,
she was with me. What was that, in the fall? No, she was with me in the spring of 19 when we started that add-on program for EDCI doctorals. I've got a group of them this semester. I do a special program on the side. She was in that. She's absolutely aces. She's a star.
She really is, and she's why I'm really in Rowan Salisbury schools.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with, she and I shared an office in Union County, but the one thing that she's really, she was the director right when COVID hit. So a lot of it was having to get people to understand that they can lead from wherever they are. Yes, you might be at home. Yes, you may be whatever capacity you're in. Everybody holds a responsibility within the organization to move to meet the needs of our students. And so we have spent a lot of time around creating this cohesiveness, this synergy within our department that that whatever position you're in, you lead somebody, and you also are being you're also within the organization. There are other groups that are depending on your leadership, right, on your ability to lead your folks. So I really enjoyed this book a lot. It speaks a lot to about communication. It speaks a lot to being intentional. That's the whole thing, is about your intentionality in how you get to know folks within your organization, how you help them to get to know you, how being intentional to make sure that you take care of your people. And so it's a lot about relationship, but it's about the intentionality and a lot of ways of how we help our teams realize that we are in this together, and that if people aren't doing well, then the organization's not doing well.
That's correct.
So I really was inspired by this particular book. It's a real easy read, but you know, it's all about empowering folks and helping people to see the importance of their roles.
Absolutely. Excellent. Thank you. All right, story time. I didn't always get to live here at the lake with the rich people. I've been here 30 years and I couldn't afford it now. But I did the first 15 years of my career out in the woods. When I say out in the woods, we were so far out in the woods, even the Presbyterians handle snakes. I mean, way back in Western North Carolina, I spent 15 years. And so one of the principalships that I had was on the side of the mountain going toward Jonas Ridge, Linville. I had hair back then other than on my face. And if the lunchroom lady was out, I had to serve lunch. If the bus driver was out, I had to drive the bus. But, you know, it taught me a lot about responsibility, and everybody has to have a role in the organization. But I an old primary building. My office was up in the end of it there. And one day I was in my office and lights started swinging and flashing, and I come running out. There's a small playground right into my office there, and kindergarten kids were playing there, and they were climbing on the electrical lines up the side of the building. Can't make this up. And the old kindergarten teacher, Miss Perkins, was standing there, and this is what she said to me: somebody needs to get a hold of these kids. Somebody needs to take charge of these kids. And I said, Miss Perkins, that'd be you. That's what we hired you to do. Everybody has a role, but we're all responsible for these kids. And so you'll hear me reference Miss Perkins from time to time, but it's what Matt was just talking about. We all have to contribute. We all have to be a part. It's not somebody else's job. It's our job. If you're the one standing there, that would be you. So it's you, Miss Perkins. That's the notion here, is that you understand that we all lead from where we are. We all have a role in the success of our organization, and that there's no role too small. If you're going to be successful, you may have to wear the hairnet. You may have to, I'll tell you right now, this is an awful story to have to tell this early in the morning, but I was one on the vomit patrol. I had a female custodian who couldn't, that old stuff that used to come in the yellow can when kids throw up. And by the way, they throw up every day in elementary school. That's just one of the bonuses of working in elementary school, is they throw up every day. And I was the one that had to put the stuff down because she couldn't stand it. And so, but that's what you do. That's your. It didn't matter that I was a principal. I drove the bus, served lunch, cleaned the floors, put it down. That was the best training I ever had. Now I'll be full disclosure. When I became principal in Charlotte, I didn't do anything. Just wear a suit and show up. That's all I had to do. I had people that did everything there. Out in the woods, you had nothing. Problem is if you're an organization with resources, you don't see that. You don't see how important everybody's role is in the organization, that everybody takes an active part and responsibility, because there's plenty of people, that's somebody else's job. That's what you're going to battle as a leader, is getting people to buy in, to understand that you need them to lead from where they are. That may be the toughest thing that you have to do as a leader, is to convince everybody it's our shared responsibility for the outcomes of the organization to meet the mission. Now, we have a business professor at Gardner Webb, Anthony DeBenabor. Anthony's an African, and one of the things that Anthony said in a meeting a long time ago that, boy, it has really stuck with me all these years. Anthony made the best point I've ever heard about mission vision. He says, your vision is your own. Your vision is your own. Your mission is dependent upon the client system and having them. If you don't serve them, you won't have them, and you won't be able to fulfill your vision. If you don't understand that your clients and meeting their needs is a big part of that mission. They're a partner in that. And so you've got to be understanding that everybody in the organization has to be focused on achieving that mission, and understanding that it's their responsibility. They've got to step up. They got to lead from where they are. And if you don't have people doing that, if you can't inspire and motivate people to do that, your organization will fail. You will not get clients, or you will not keep clients. They will go somewhere else if they're not getting what they need. And everybody in the organization must be focused on that and understand that your clients are a part of your mission. It's a shared responsibility with them, and that everybody has to be present and engaged. That's your role as a leader, to make sure that everybody is engaged and present every day. And that, it's you, Miss Perkins. Whatever it is, it's you. If you're here, if you're there, and if something needs to be done, you got to get it done. That shared values is what you have to get your organization to understand. It's up to all of us. I don't know if it did any good or not. We had the Ignite Scholarship interviews this spring. I don't teach undergraduates. They don't let me around young people. I understand that. I wouldn't let me around them either. But I went over there and I interviewed those young people. That it was more for me than it was for them. But the notion here is that whatever it is your organization has, you need to get people to understand that everybody needs to be a part of it, even if it's not directly related to their job. I'm sure I added zero value, but I was willing. That's the notion. I'm the bad example for everything. I'm not being boastful this morning, but even if you can get an old geezer like me, the old angry white man standing out in the yard, yelling at kids, get off my lawn. If you can get them, then you've won. That's a win. You got to get everybody to understand. Doesn't matter if it's your job or not. If it's here, it's for us to do. Let's get after it. Let's saddle up and ride. That's your job as a leader, to get everybody bought in to whatever that mission in order to accomplish that vision. But again, I wasn't smart enough to figure that out. That was Anthony Benabor, and I like to credit people for their work. Anthony, that's a wonderful way to determine between vision and mission. All right, let me share my screen. Yes, comments. Can you that's what I was going to now. Comments.
Can you repeat Dr. Bendavor's quote, please?
He said, "Your vision is your own, but your mission is dependent upon the client system. They have a shared part of that. If you don't have them, if you don't have clients, if you don't have followers, if you don't have them, or they've not bought into what you're doing, they won't stay with you. They'll seek value elsewhere. Your vision is what you want to do in the community with this group of people, with this organization. This is my vision of where we're going. That's the vision part. The mission is how we're going to get there. And if our client system isn't with us, if we're not serving them, if we are not providing value or adding value for them, they won't stay. And then how do you spread your vision? Our vision at Gardner Webb is service and humanity, and is Christianity. Yes, we want to provide an education, but that's kind of secondary to our vision, that service to God and humanity. That's we're trying to spread Christianity and faith. That we believe that really makes a difference in our society. But if we don't have any students, if we don't serve our students, they won't stay. How are we going to spread the word if we don't have anybody that's going to spread it for us? We can't all go over to Walmart and preach every afternoon.
Dr. Lamb, I'll say that about teachers. So one of the things is we've aimed to serve our students for a very long time in many ways and come up with things, but we are now in a situation where teachers are our clientele.
Yes.
Without teachers, we cannot serve students. And so we have to serve and support and provide value for our teachers.
Yes.
They have to want to work with us and a part of our organization. And so there is very much a shift. We talk about charter schools. We talked about that within churches. That is where we are now having to adapt to understand that recruitment and retention of teachers is our focus. Good teachers too. So.
Yeah. Well, at some point I'll rant about, my dislike of Collins and Good to Great, because it doesn't really work with teachers. But that's another story for another day. Again, my weekly gig is working masters and postmasters in principal preparation at Gardner Webb, and I teach law and finance. I'm just as surprised as you. I teach statistics. I teach quantitative in the doctoral program. Who knew? And so it's all numbers, and so that's fine with me. And so, but to Matt's point is we've had to put a new module in 603 on recruitment and retention of teachers. Renita Griffin Jordan, she's principal. Dr. Renita, she was one of my doctoral students a few years back. She's principal at City of Medicine in Durham, and she works with me. And I like to have people who are still in the field. We team up and we teach in that program. And I always have people who are actually, I'm a has-been. I used to do it, but it's been a long time. I hadn't been in school since, it's been 23 years since I've been in the school. I did my last, 10 or 12 in the central office. But I have bring people in, and that's because she lives it every day. And so we've developed a new module for recruiting and retaining teachers. And Matt's exactly right. That's what happened. We can't we can't achieve our mission if we don't do that, because we need them to deliver. He's exactly right. That's the whole point. You got to deliver it, and your client system's involved in that. If you're not giving them what they need, they'll go somewhere else. We have all these visionaries, but we have to, in the College of Ed, or any College of Ed, or any university, you basically have two divisions. You have your curriculum people, that's the smart people. And then you have the operations people, that's the side I'm on, the LS side, And so people ask me what the difference is. Well, the curriculum people, their work is having a meeting. We only meet on the operations side to organize and then go do the work. But you have to have both. You have to have those curriculum people who figure out what we should be doing, and then you got to have the operations people who then go out and put it in place. Without both of those, you're not serving your clients. They're not getting what they need. It's either they're getting something that's not very good, or we have all this curricula, but we don't deliver it. The teachers are the delivery part. They're the operations side. You got to have both. Public school has to have both. Universities have to have both. You have to have the delivery side. Now, I can barely spell curriculum. Now, full disclosure, I've been married to a curriculum instruction specialist. She's right in there for 38 years. So she reminds me daily how dumb operations people are. And I fully accept that. But Matt's exactly right. We've got to focus on the people who, instead of focusing on the theoretical part now, we've been forced to focus on the operational piece of recruiting and training teachers, because they're at the point of contact. They're at the point of delivery. We can't forget that piece. I see all these visionary leaders and inspire and motivate, but then after the meeting is over, everybody just goes back and does what they've been doing. Again, the vision is your own, but the mission is you got to get it out there, and the client system is a big part of that. If you're not serving them, if you don't have the people who can serve them, as Matt said, good teachers, not just people that are just filling up space, good teachers. And so now we've had to develop a module how to quickly grow teachers into the ones we want to be. And I will, to end this segment, and we'll take our break here in 3 minutes. I'll try to stay on time. I'm not a Collins fan. Collins good to great. Get the best people and get them on the bus in the right seat. What if there ain't no best people? What are you gonna do now, hero? I walked into a high school in Charlotte. I had 37 vacancies. 37. I was out on Central Avenue flagging cars down. Can you teach school? Getting the best one assumes past the modern problem. That, by the way, that was 30 years ago. The modern problem of there ain't no best ones, there ain't none. What are you going to do now? You have to go out and you have to recruit. You have to find them. Then we'll worry about, then we got to have a program to accelerate them to make them the best ones as quickly as we can. My model is called MTSS for Teachers. It's a play on MTSS for Kids, multi-tiered system of support. I've developed one, and we have our students develop one now. How are we going to get these teachers up to speed as quickly as we can? I can't, and how can we get people? Well, recruitment is they want to come and work at your building. That you are a good person to work for, you inspire, you motivate, you serve them. You get things done for them. I have a colleague who works in a local school system. He's gone back after and wants to finish his career there. And one of the things that attracted him to that system was principal is truly a servant leader. Whatever you need, that's what his job every day is to facilitate you as a teacher. That will help you recruit more than anything else. Is that people want to work for you as a leader because you're there to serve them and help them to grow and be better. Most people don't get up every morning and say, I think I'll go to work and be incompetent today. Most folks want to do the best thing, you know, the best, and they want people that'll help them to grow into that and lead them into that and give them the opportunity to grow into that and the resources to grow into that. And if you do that as a leader, then the client gets what they need. And you can, again, that mission, that client's got a part in that. So it can't just be all vision, folks. That's the thought. That's the curriculum side. The delivery side, the operation side. That's what we've got to be focused on as leaders as well. Too long leaders just focused on the curriculum side, the vision side, and figured, well, you know, it'll get there by osmosis maybe. But we need much more. We must be more intentional in the delivery side, the mission side, if we're going to be successful as organization. What are they getting for their money or their time or both? We must be much more intentional in that. I see it's 10 o'clock. It's time for our first break. Thank you for being with me. We'll continue on our discussion boards in our second segment this morning. We actually got there a little bit sooner than I thought. We're actually ahead of schedule. You know, we will never go past the time. I always try to get you out early if I can. Again, I appreciate you being with me this morning. We'll be back on at 10:15. All right. And we're back. All right. We'll give everybody a second here. I'll share my screen. Leslie, you're up next. You caught my eye this week. I want you to share your story that you shared with us about when you were in the spring and summer of 2020, when this is an exemplar of that rant that I was just on about you can meet and have all this vision that you want, but until you understand your mission is to put it in place and get it to work and involve the people who you're trying to work with, that it won't happen. So Leslie, tell us this story here about the spring and summer of 2020.
Sure. So this was during the time of when COVID started to really ramp up and organizations were having to figure out how they were going to continue on, what they needed to change, et cetera. And so during this time, I worked at Averett University in Danville, Virginia, and I was the dean of students there. And we, like most other colleges, had to go online. We had to pivot. We had to make some arrangements and some changes. Got through the spring semester. And then, of course, had to figure out as a university what we were going to do to move forward to be able to open in the fall.
This is what they do to us. This is what they do to us.
And so what that meant for being able to open, because we had to continue to open and to serve our students. And so our president, I think we all knew the goal. What was it that we were trying to accomplish? And so initially, our cabinet met and we created all of these committees to be able to reach the goal. And those committees were not really reaching the goal. They weren't focused on some of the operational pieces that needed to be done to truly be open. And so what was happening was we probably met for a good month and a half, not having a clear vision, not having a good goal. And so we weren't able to make plans. And again, operational plans to consist of, okay, how are we going to have in-person classes? How are we going to do our COVID testing? And our president was having us do bigger picture.
Ridiculous. Okay. I want to file a formal complaint. He is standing right beside my daughter, clapping as loud as he can on every single point that she loses from one call that he doesn't even know whether it was in or out. Okay. It was a serve. It wasn't even the end of the point. Okay. And
all right, Leslie, unmute yourself and we'll continue.
Sure. It was getting heated there. So anyway, we were able to pivot and realized that the committees and the work that we were doing was not focusing on being able to be operational. And we created new committees, had different areas of our cabinet serve. And again, it was all operational. Again, how are we going to do testing? How are we going to be able to offer in class? How are we going to keep people safe? And, how are we providing social distancing? And so once we really were very clear about that, we were able to pivot and make that change. We were very successful and actually thinking back now, it's amazing what we were able to accomplish. And that just goes to show me that, I think going back to what you said, Dr. Lamb, you can have this vision of what needs to happen, but you also have to have people that take that and do work. And I haven't always seen it work that way in higher ed, but I saw it happen when we were planning for COVID. And I wish that that we could continue being able to be operational and be focused, but that's not always the case. And so I really appreciated that experience because although it was very traumatic, I think for many of us, I think that it showed when you have a clear goal and you have a clear vision and you have operational steps and you have people that want to do the work, you can accomplish something great.
Absolutely. Excellent example. Excellent. You got to be able to operationalize leadership.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The vision can be your own, what you want to get accomplished. Yeah, we want to do all these. Well, how are we going to get there? And so, story time again. When my wife and I first got married, we lived in very rural Western North Carolina, and we actually lived in her hometown. And there was no cable TV. There was no satellite TV. You had to get a channel master antenna. Anybody know what a channel master antenna is? It's an old antenna that fits on the chimney of your house. And you strapped it around your chimney. It had a little motor on it, so it would turn. So you could, you only had 3 channels in Western North Carolina, and you couldn't get all of them at one time. You had to turn. So you had a little box on your TV, and it had a little dial, and you turned and it moved the antenna so you could get Asheville, or you could get Spartanburg, or you could get Greenville. That's the only 3 channels there were. You couldn't pick up any in Tennessee, but in Western North Carolina. So, you've got you young first married couple and you want to watch TV. So you had to put your channel master antenna up on there. And so I was standing out on the back deck one Saturday morning, and my wife came out. Remember, she's a curriculum person. I'm an operations person. And she said to me, "Well, what are you doing today?" I said, "Well, I want to put this antenna up on that on there." She said, "I got it. I want to put it up on the chimney up on the roof." And she said, "Well, do you have the antenna?" "Yes, ma'am. I've got the antenna." "Do you have the straps to put it in?" "I got the straps to put it around there." She said, "Do you not know how to do that?" "Yes, ma'am. I know how to do that." "Do you have the tools to do that?" "Yes, ma'am. I have the tools to do that." She said, "Well, why are you just standing here?" I said, "Because I don't know how to get up on the roof." The roof is an 812 pitch roof back in the day when, you can't walk up an 812 pitch roof. You're going to need a crane to get up there. I said, as a curriculum person, she assumed to pass the problem. If we've got all the ingredients here, then why does it not happen? Well, somebody has to operationalize it. Somebody's got to get up on the roof. I can't get up on the roof. And so I had everything that I needed, the expertise, the equipment, the tools. I had everything I needed, but I couldn't get up on the roof. I couldn't operationalize this thing. That's the part that the visionary people, they don't see the steps that it takes to physically get up on the roof. And then we'll do it when we get up there. That's the part that they have this wonderful vision. They have these wonderful ideas, but if you can't operationalize them, then your clients don't get served. You don't get to watch TV. And so that's what Leslie's talking about here. This is a wonderful, wonderful example to demonstrate the difference between vision and mission, ideas and operation. Your job as a leader is you got to operationalize. You got to make things happen. They don't pay you just to be the idea man. or woman. They pay you. We don't pay for effort. I tell students all the time in the school business, we don't pay for effort. We pay for outcome. We pay for results. Your job as a school administrator is to make, or any administrator, is to make a good number go up or a bad number go down, period. You know, we have report cards, universities have report cards, schools have report, everybody, we know where we are. Your job is to make a good number go up or a bad number go down. And you have to operationalize to do that. Sitting around thinking, talking about it, won't help, won't get it done, won't get you up on the roof. So that's the notion here on that one. Effective and efficient, vision, mission, and it's basically vision versus mission is what it is here. Now, not being the ideas guy, I do recognize the value of having a vision of where you want to go. But if you can't get there, if you can't get up on the roof, you will not be successful. The operations, you got to make sure that you understand that there's an operational piece. There's an effectiveness piece that goes with that. And your client system has to be served. Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, so let's go to our next one here. Let me share my screen to share. All right, Gary, you're up next. I like what you had to say here in your last block, in your last one here, when you were at Chapel Hill, fine alma mater. Don't hold that against them.
Yeah,
I was an undergraduate at NC State, so you can still like me. I'm still the operations
Hey, look,
guy. So tell us
UNC
about
paid
this
the
last.
bills. Yeah. So I've been at UNC for the last 2.5 years. And so my first department I was in the School of Medicine, which is UNC's biggest research department. So they even have like their own model for their own grants and contracts versus the rest of the school, because the rest of the school doesn't even their number doesn't even match the School of Medicine numbers by themselves. So working within that department there, they have their own database, a system where they store all their grants and contracts, and how they funded it from the sponsor to the school to responses, like everything from no cost extensions, from changes of personnel, whatever you could think of. Like, they have their own database where they keep everything, and everything is tracked. And so when I left there and I went to the School of Education at UNC, I realized it's a whole different system that way. And there's so much chaos. And the one thing that UNC really prides themselves on is their customer service when it comes to responding to the sponsor in a timely manner, responding to our sub-recipients, our sub-awards in a timely manner, and actually just responding to other departments on campus in a timely manner. And in the School of Education, that wasn't the case, because we were scrambling so much to find little information that should be all together and it should be accessible. And so we ended up devising a focus group where it was, because I brought it up to the dean and said, hey, coming from a foundation, I used to work in a private foundation before going to UNC. Coming from a foundation, this doesn't look good. And it's not the fact that we're not using the money correctly, or we're not doing our job and providing a service to our constituents. It's the fact that administratively we are not on point, and that's a problem. And we have to take a week or two to respond to a sponsor that doesn't look good. And so our goal in the focus group was to kind of take from the School of Medicine's database, but just simplify, because we don't need everything they have. We just need a little part of it and create it for ourselves. And so that's what we did. And then they adopted it, and now everything runs perfectly fine over there now. They respond to sponsors with 3 to 4 days. Everything looks great. And even the dean says, hey, this is so much easier for our people. We can all see what's going on. We don't have to scramble, go to people emails, things of that matter. So yeah.
And this is the example of efficiency, internal efficiency. You've got to get your house in order before you can help somebody else. That's that operational piece as well. Is how are we going to organize to go and do our work? If we're not organized, we can't go and do our work. Or if we do, we can't track it. We don't know what we did, or if it happens, it was just luck. You know, that's that internal effectiveness piece that it's also on the operational. We know what we want to do. We have a vision, but we can't accomplish it because we're not organized well enough to do it. That's a big piece of organizations as well. Is your responsibility as a leader to make sure that you are organized. And that's that curriculum side to start with. What do we want to do? Now, operationally, let's organize and go do it. But Gary's example is they couldn't organize and go do it. They knew what they wanted to do. They had the resources, they had the personnel, they had the skill, the ability, but they weren't organized in an efficient way to go and do that. And they became less effective because of that. You say, well, they still deliver to the client system, but not as effectively. And remember, in the grants business, a lot of nonprofits, you're dependent upon that grants. I mean, you've got to serve them as well as the clients that you're trying to serve. If they stop giving you the money, you can't serve the clients that you're trying to serve. So you have to service them as well. That's a big part of nonprofits. Again, that's the first case study you'll have when you get to 738 is you have to develop metrics in nonprofits for both sides, the quantitative and qualitative, that you can show how many people you serve and how well you serve them. Your metrics that you develop to report that's what Gary's talking about is you've got to get your organization, you got to get so that you can meet your metrics. You design, you kind of reverse engineer. Here's our metrics we want to hit. How, are we organized efficiently to hit those? That's exactly what we're talking about here. You kind of have to know where you're going to go. You have to kind of reverse engineer it. But if you don't, if you're not organized, if you don't have a set of steps operationally that you're going to execute or the data to execute them, things will not go well for you. You will not be able to. Hold 1 second. Let me take this. I'm sorry, that's one of my students. He's been sick. I'm glad to hear he's back in the world. He's another one with COVID. I was waiting on a call to check on him today. He says he's better, so I'm glad. Thank the Lord for that. He's been very sick. And I said one of our colleagues in the College of Ed, Dr. Jessica Van Cleve, she's tested positive, and I hope she's doing well too. So COVID's back. We may have to go virtual again. Leslie's right. We may have to have these plans again. But at least we got people like Leslie who know how to do this now. I mean, that's good experience. Bad that you have to have it, but good experience to have. I hope we don't get to that point again, but I've got a lot of folks that are sick. Of course, my folks all work in public education, and being around snotty little kids, you catch everything in the world. I'm disappointed that the general public and a lot of the pundits didn't understand before when we closed schools. It was not for kids. It was to try to keep from killing our teachers. As Matt was talking about this morning, we can't get enough help. Doesn't do any, we have to look after our teachers. And that was about looking after our teachers. You know, I mean, we want to serve our kids, but if we don't have any teachers to do it, if we kill them all off during COVID, then you know, we're not going to be able to deliver services. So again, that's one of those things we have to look after our people. And it goes back to what Gary just said is again, people try to be efficient and competent at work. And if we don't have systems that allow them to be, they won't stay with us. People don't like coming to work. People leave because of working conditions. You know, one of our theoretical frameworks that you will adopt, you know, during your dissertation phase, which will be our last section today, by the way, is the Hertzberg model of satisfaction. You know, his two-factor theory. I'm a big Hertzberg fan, by the way. Why people stay and why they go. They're not the same thing. They are not the same thing. The same things that make people stay are not the same thing. People think it's a continuum. Satisfaction is a continuum. It's not. It's two sides of a different. It's the two sides of the same coin, but it's two different things. And if you don't organize and people don't feel satisfaction in their work, if they feel like they're not being competent, they don't know what to do, they have that feeling of anomie. People say, "What in the world is anomie?" Well, that uncertainty. They're not certain, and they don't know what direction every day. They'll leave you. It's just that simple. That's overriding. If they can't derive any intrinsic satisfaction in the work that they do every day, they won't stay. And we see a lot of turnover in certain organizations. It's not because of bad leadership. It's just absence of leadership. They don't know what to do. And so we have to make sure that we organize so our folks know what to do and then are able to do it. That's the whole notion of that organizing to go and do your work. And it will help you with your retention of your employee. All right. Barry, you're up next. Let me see if I can. Barry talked about being a consultant, and we'll let me share. Yes.
Are you finding that? I do want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Considering Gary's case, what if the person, so he mentioned that he went to go speak to the individual who was actually receptive to hearing that feedback and didn't mind sharing, implementing a new strategy. But what if that's not the case? How would you suggest that conversation or that space is navigated if you do see something that could be a little bit better, but maybe the people that can give you the approval to do so, whatnot, is not as receptive and kind of stuck in something being a certain way because what it's always been or just not open.
Yeah. People don't, you know, we used to call them come to Jesus meetings. Now we call them critical conversations that you have to have with people about their performance. That's never going to be pleasant. You know, that's not the point. Now, I'm going to say something contradictory to most all the literature that you read now. But I think it's one of the problems that we have is do not, and again, let me be clear, do not use the sandwich method. I'm going to talk about how to do it, and then I'll get to your point about how do you engage this if they're not receptive. As you know, for the last, you know, in modern times in this century, people have, you know, on feedback and critical conversations, the go-to is use the sandwich method. What is the sandwich method? The sandwich method is we got somebody who's not performing what we need. We go in and we have a meeting with them, a critical conversation, and we start out with all the wonderful things that they do. Then we slide in the middle of the thing we need for them to fix, and then we go continue with another laundry list of the things that they do well. And we sandwich the bad part in between, you know, the layers of the good stuff on either side. Quit it. Don't do that. It's not an effective way to communicate what folks need to work on. All they hear is the good stuff. They don't hear the thing that they need to work on. And so understand when people don't want to change or don't need the things that they need to do, you need to be very direct in having a plan for them. You can't just say get better. You need to be able to explain these are the things that you're doing that we've got to work. We've got to focus on these things. Don't go in and tell them about. If you tell them 1,000 things that they did good in one, they won't be receptive to that one bad thing. Well, you just said I did all these wonderful things. They use that against you. You got to focus, to your point, people who are not receptive, you got to focus. You got to be able to say, here's the outcomes. Here's the results. Here's your performance trend. We've got to address this. Now, we're going to do a professional growth plan for you to help you grow into this. We're not just going to say get better and go. We're going to have an actual action plan of how you're going to get better. That's how you have those difficult. That's how you engage people that don't want to. This is where you are. Let me pull up something here. We were working on this week, by the way. We do this with our new folks. Let me get to this. All right. Dr. Robin Hamilton works with us. She works with our beginning MSA students. This is actual data from 2 teachers in her building that she had to have critical conversations with. She created this little chart here, this little pivot table. Teacher A had 3 years of data working with different quartiles of students. What do you see the problem is in red for teacher A?
You met the expectations 2 years in a row, then did not meet it, and then right back to meeting it.
Well, but look at quartile 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So kids are divided into 5 quartiles in terms of their ability, their test scores. Look at teacher A. For the 3-year cycle, she met with the lowest kids and the highest kids, but what about the middle kid? She did not meet in terms of their test score performance. This is not subjective. This is objective performance data. Your kids in the middle, your middle kids, which are by far the largest group, don't be confused and think that when you're doing quintiles like this that there's the same number of kids in each. By far, the largest group of kids in any normal distribution is in the 3rd quintile. That's the middle kid. There's more of them than the others combined. Where is she having problems? With the majority of her students, they're not meeting growth. Look at the last teacher, teacher B here. Her low kids do great, her middle kids do great, but what about her upper level kids? They don't do great.
Yeah.
She's not. So the first teacher is not teaching to the middle kid, which is the most. She's probably working with these kids, and these kids get, the upper kids that, all you got to do is just like, with the upper kid like that. My wife worked right across the water at Davidson at the IB school the last 15 years of her career. That was the 240th smartest kids in Charlotte-Mecklenburg out of 140,000. And I would tell my wife every day, most important person in your organization is the custodian. As long as you get the front door open every day, scores walk right in. Those kids teach themselves. You're not worried about them. We try to facilitate them. But as we looked at those 2 teachers, one of them is missing the majority of her kids. She's just not very good. She's probably working with the low kids a little bit, or she may have an inclusion like Matt was talking about, where she's got some support for the low kids in her room in terms of another teacher, but she's not effective at all. We look at the other teacher is she does fine with the low and middle, but she's not doing anything for the high kids. Probably what she's doing with them, and I have a case study on this that our folks have to work through. She's probably having them work with the low kids where they're teaching them every day. Basic skills, that happens, folks. That's real. She's taking her upper kids and having them teach the low kids. And guess what? The upper kids aren't getting anything. It's just remedial for them every day. School's a bore. It's a drag. You got to track your data. And to Darius's point, how do you have these people don't want to hear it? You have data that supports that this is the stuff that has to happen. Back to Gary's point is we live on data in modern society. We got to have data at our fingertips. You got to know how your employees are performing. Are they meeting their metrics? That's how you start the conversation. Don't go in and tell them 1,000 wonderful things they're doing, because that your message is lost in that. We have to focus on, this is where you're having a problem. We have to be very intentional, very specific. So how do you have critical conversations? Intentional, specific, and have a plan of how you're going to address that. Just telling them they got to get better is like telling the kid playing basketball, you got to get taller. Well, how do I do that? That's how we have critical conversations. We start with data, performance data, and hopefully over time, if we can. This is where we need to be. This is where you are. We've got to close that gap. But here's the good news. We have steps to help you do that. Here's what we're going to do in an action plan to get you from where you are, a professional growth plan, to where you need to be. We're going to use the best of Linda Darling Hammond, who is the best at professional development across any organization. Doesn't matter if it's public, private, nonprofit, schools. And we're going to use some combination of one-on-one, small group, and whole group to help you get you where you need to be. We're going to grow you. We're, going back to that, going back to empowerment. There's two types of empowerment. If you're from NASCAR country, you'll get this analogy: Big E and Little E. There's two types of empowerment. There's empowerment we'll use schools as an example, because that's everybody understands school. There's empowerment as a classroom leader. Best practices in teaching, getting better actually teaching. And then there's Big E empowerment. Empowerment as a leader within your organization, leading from where you are. There's roles on that. You have to empower people to do both, but the whole idea is you want to empower them as classroom leaders, and you want your best teachers to then be your school leaders and empower them to be organizational leaders. Sit on curriculum committees, be part of the school improvement team, be on the hiring committee, be on the budget committee, be on the school improvement team. Those 5 things from Todd Whitaker. But we want our best people who are empowered in their classroom. We want them to be the school-wide leaders. We don't want the people who metaphorically roll the ball out every day to be a leader. We want our best practitioners to be leaders in our organization. And we work on them to empower them to be the best at their job level, whatever that is. And then we empower them in the organization to take on more leadership roles, because we want our best people to be our leadership and our exemplars for the rest of our employees. We don't want our bad teachers or our bad employees having leadership roles. We want our best ones, and we want to grow them all to be our best ones. Those teachers had gaps in their game. We can schedule around that for a little bit, but eventually we've got to grow them into the teachers we need for them to be. We got to grow all employees in the employees we need them to be. That's our job. When you hire somebody, your number one job is to make them successful. If you can't remember that, write it down. Your number one job when you hire somebody is to make them successful. When I hired you or took you as my new magnificent Jet 7, how did I start this conversation today? My job is to make you successful. My job is for you to write your dissertation and get your degree in 3 years. That's my job, is to make you successful. Whatever it takes, I have to be committed to do that. I have to grow you into that. And it's my responsibility to make sure. I can't put that now. I'll have somebody else. I'm program coordinating this program for a year as an interim. I said, and again, I'm worth what they're paying, which is zero. I refuse to take any compensation to do this for you. If I'm any good at it, they want to pay me to stay. That's fine. I may want to move on to and just do like I used to do, just work in this program. I already coordinate the largest graduate program on campus, and so I've been kind of busy. But I love this. This is. I get more out of it than you do. That's why I thank you all the time. I get more than you do. So don't think I'm a wonderful person. I'm having my needs met, not financially. Don't need that, but in other ways. I live through you. My job is to make you successful. I live through you as your leader. And if you get people to understand that, those critical, I'm not saying this to be boastful today, but that's how you get people to engage with you in those critical conversations. If they truly believe that you're there for their success, those critical conversations, which were one time difficult, are not nearly as difficult if they know that you're there for them, that you want them to be successful, that the whole point of your leadership is for them because you hired them. And even if you didn't hire them, when you became their leader, in effect, you hired them, they became yours. They become your responsibility to grow them. Now, at some point, you have to go Luke 14:5. The book of Luke, chapter 14, verse 5. What that speaks to is going to church on Sunday. And Jesus said, if your ox is in the ditch on Sunday, you can get him out. But the extension of that is if your ox is in the ditch every Sunday, you got to get a new ox. And that's the whole notion of employees. We're going to grow you as hard and as we're going to be as dedicated to your success as we can be. But if you're not going to be a willing participant in that, we got to get a new ox. That's the whole notion here is that we're going to do everything we can to make you successful. If people understand that you're living through them and their success is paramount to you, then that's how you have those critical conversations, Darius. That's a great question. Absolutely a great question.
Thank you so much.
Those are hard. But don't be that person that's disingenuous that comes in and does that sandwich deal. Everybody recognizes that you're just blowing smoke up their skirt. Be straight with people. Be honest. Be authentic. I guess that's what it's known nowadays as. Just be authentic with them. Don't, one of the things that hopefully you'll get in a later course that in your leadership course is Johari's window, where you recognize and then begin to understand that you can't have a public persona and a private persona. That you have to be that same person. You have to be your authentic self always if you're going to be a leader. You can't be one way at one time and another way another time. People can't deal with that with folks in a leadership role. They won't follow those people. They don't know who to follow. It can't be that way. Our case study that we're going to talk about here, as we move into our next segment here, our case study. We're to finish up this one. We've talked about our discussions. Our case study this morning is a young leader, and that's one of the problems that he's having. He has two selves basically. He has the self that tries to reward them and do all of that. That's one persona. But then he has this other persona where he's very transactional. Transactional means punish and reward. That's stimulus response. That's Skinnerian, B.F. Skinnerian. Who was the psychology major here? Ought to explain this to me. B.F. Skinner, Pavlov's dog, you ring the bell, the dog salivates, whatever. And so we talk about authentic selves, and we have to do that. Matt just pointed out we've moved past Barry. Barry talked to us as we conclude this section. We'll do the case study in a second about when you went out to do the professional development and how that went for you and what you felt in terms of the delivery of that professional development.
Well, I think, I got a lot of positive feedback. Every time I do leadership coaching or leadership consulting, I always do a feedback form because I like to know. I don't believe my own press. But, looking back, I think that I didn't do enough investigative work about the culture because, at one point, what happens is when you go and you do leadership training or coaching or consulting, everybody's excited about the teaching. But the real result is when the culture changes. So I don't know if the culture's really changed. I talked about integrity. I talked about teamwork. I talked about collaboration, all of those things. But again, if you don't deal with the root causes, and I think that conversation about the 5 whys, that really helped me this week, because I don't think we do, as I said, enough investigative work. We start at the surface, we ask a couple questions, but we don't do enough deep diving. And so when I look back at what I did this year with that particular church, I don't think that I did enough deep diving to understand the culture. And so even like in the case study, I know there was a problem with Jared, but one of all the problems in that case study was that there was a change in leadership dynamic. And that's not to say what Jared did was wrong, but where I did the leadership training, there was a change in the leadership. And so whenever there's a change in administration, you have to deal with the old culture and move into the new culture. And so I didn't really deal with that part. And so I think even though the teaching may have been effective, I don't know how effective it will be going forward. So that's probably my greatest concern about that, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Let me show you something. And this is not, again, I've got to be careful. I've got bad shoulders. I don't want to throw one of them out trying to pat myself on the back here. But this is what you were talking about, Barry. So here's one I did this summer. I've been doing we have a collaborative partner. That's part of our mission. Is we have low wealth school districts that we partner with every year. And so I've been working with Thomasville City Schools for a number of years now. And so here's a professional development that I did with them this summer, 2 days back in July. So let me share my screen. And to Barry's point, you know what I did the first day? We'll get to that in just a second. What I did the first day was what Barry was just talking about. Let's see. First day, I did a deep dive on their culture. See all these questions that we divided in group and worked through all these things. And we were working, Barry, on empathy, communication, collaboration, and personal responsibility. That's what they asked me to come in and work with the central office in Thomasville City Schools. So those were the things we were trying to do. But the first thing I had to do the first day, I had to do a deep dive into their culture, what their belief system was. And these questions, I had them divide up in group and come up with the 5 most important ones. That told me what their culture was. And then the second day, I did what you did. That's when, on day 2, I did the actual teaching. But I adapted it according to the culture dive that I did the first day.
Right.
That's the way you do that.
That makes sense.
You've got to map their culture yourself if you're going to help them.
Yeah.
Now, it had to be a quick turnaround. I had 2 days, and I told them I need 2 days to do this. They said, 2 whole. I said, no, I need 2 hours each day. But I need to be able to collect some data the first day. So, I did a culture dive the first day, and then I plug and played the second day. But I had a better notion of their culture. Now, I'd like to, but now I'll tell you this: I had been working with them for 2 years. I had a pretty good idea. Been doing different modules with them along the way on Fridays once a month. I bring in, like I said, Josh Sane, we work EC. I do master scheduling. I bring Robin Hamilton in to do recruitment and HR. I bring all these experts in the field in. We've been working individual, but we put it all together. I did a culture dive first, exactly what Barry was talking about. You saw all those different 20 questions to determine that those questions were there to determine what their culture is, what's important to them. They had to pick the 5 most important. And that told me what their culture was. And then the second day, the instruction was through the lens of their culture. That's what you have to do as a consultant. You must map their culture first. I do that with everybody I work with. I map their culture first. I have a way to do that. It varies according to what kind of church, map their culture. When we start working with them, schools, whatever organ, nonprofits, whatever we're working with, if you want me to come in and work with you, or want one of our students, we got to map your culture first. We got to know what's important to you. We can talk about it. I mean, we can have it written down somewhere, but we really got to map it. And so that's exactly right. So I like what Barry said. Barry was self-aware enough to understand that he should have mapped their culture first. You can't just assume because they're a church, this is their culture, or they're a school, this is their culture. You have to map it. You have to do that first. And there's different ways. There's different ones that you can use. I'll tell you, I cheat a lot. I use AI. I use AI a lot when I'm doing things like that. When I'm developing surveys for students for your doc for your doc programs, I'm not I use it for qualitative analysis. I use two different ones. I use ChatSonic and I turn off the AI part and we just do thematic analysis. It does exactly the same thing as In Vivo does, except it costs me $20 a month rather than $7,500 a year. So when we do qualitative analysis of your data, like focus group data or interview data, we do thematic and contextual analysis using using these tools. When I'm designing workshops, I feed in that culture, and then the second day I know what to teach. I use standard practice culture identity tools to identify their culture, to map it, and then I use AI to help me design what I'm going to do. That's why I can do a one-day turnaround. Used to, I had to wait a week or 2 weeks till I could sit and analyze all my data and figure out what I was going to do. Now I can do it. I can do it and go one day into the next. I could do it morning and afternoon if I could get, if I can get to my tools. We could do a morning session and do it later in the afternoon. That's one of the things that AI allows us to do. Now you got to know what AI is telling you. I mean, you better recognize what it's telling you. You better have that in your toolkit. It just gets me there faster. Is what it does. But yeah,
You said it's called ChatSonic?
I use ChatSonic's free. You can use it.
Okay.
And I use ChatGPT. I've got a paid account for ChatGPT if you're going to do the more higher level AI stuff. But you can use AI in ChatSonic.
Okay.
It's just not as advanced. It's all about writing prompts. You got to understand how to write your prompts. I did a workshop in Seattle. What was that? During the opening of school, I did one. But it's basically about how to use them and how to write prompts. But you got to know what you're getting. You got to. I mean, you can't just be the village idiot and it's all of a sudden going to make you smart. That's some village is missing their idiot. It won't help him or me. But if you know what you're doing and you have a body of knowledge, it helps you get to it much faster and quicker. And it's not plug and play. You got to be able to write your prompts and know what you want. But you have to know what kind of culture mapping you want to do. What tools you're going to use. And then when you get your data back, you plug that in and do an analysis of that. You can do a thematic analysis, and it'll tell you what things you should be working on the next day with them, the things that they're deficient in. That's exactly what I did this summer in July when I did Thomasville. I mapped them the first day, came home, plugged it in, was ready to go the second day on the things they needed work on. We worked on those. Again, I'm worth what you pay me. We do this, this is service to the community, but they seem to like it. They gave me a gift and invited me back. So I don't know. That if they invite you back, it must have went pretty well. I mean, pretty good, at least reasonable. Of course, it might have been they're hiring me by cost. Maybe that's it. But I think they got something. They said they did. They were excited. Now, the people who did this, some of them were happier with me than others because one of the things that you do in this is sometimes you point out their deficiencies. Now and you can tell I have the tact of a bull in the china shop, but hey, I've only got so many days left on this earth. I don't have time to do the sandwich method and all that other stuff.
Dr. Lamb, I talked about in today's or last night's or this week's discussion board that I think the good thing, or one of the benefits of doing the 5 W's, is that it keeps you from treating every situation as a one size fits all.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about is you got to map everybody. You don't just, oh, I've worked at a school district before. I've worked at school districts for the last 45 years, but everyone is different. You got to go in and map their culture. Don't assume that every church is the same because they're Baptist or Methodist. Well, try not to work with Methodists. We just sprinkle them and let them go to hell. But everybody's not the same. Every Methodist church is not the same. Every Baptist church is not the same. There's differences other than just full immersion or sprinkling when you baptize them. There's bigger differences than that. So you can't assume a church is a church or a school is a school. You got a culture map every time. If you're being a responsible consultant or leader, you've got a culture map every time you go in, because everything that organization does is through the lens of its culture. Now, I'm going to speak extemporaneously here, and Dr. Dean Villarose here might disagree with this. We're going through a culture change at Gardner-Webb right now. Good, bad, or indifferent, we're going through a culture change to try to be more competitive in the marketplace, to come into society. Now, the people, there's not many of them left, but people in my age range who've only ever worked at Gardner-Webb, they're resistant to that because it's not what they did every day. I am not, because I've worked other places and done other things. This is not new, and I understand what's being done and why it's being done and the need to do that. But Barry, to your point is, one of the things that happened at Gardner-Webb is when we got our current president, I guess I should refer to him as the new president. First thing he did a culture map of the place. And then he wrote a new strategic plan. And then, we're trying to make a culture shift to be more relevant and present in society. Again, it won't matter how good we are if we don't have any customers, if we don't have any students. And so the notion here was we've been on a slide since the economic crash of 2007. We've lost about 1,000 undergraduates during that time. Trying to stop and reverse that slide and go back up. Well, that requires a culture shift. It's about service now. It's not people don't owe you money. They don't have to come. So we now have a service focus, and so we're undergoing a culture shift right now. School business is, the K-12 business has been in it for much longer, and so we recognize the need to do that. The people who have a K-12 background, rather than higher ed as that was our real job for like 30 years, 32, whatever, understand that you got to change. You can't assume a culture, and you can't assume that it should be that way forever. If you want to change, you've got to change the culture of the place as well. I unfortunately I have to tell emerging administrators, the ones that I work with all the time, is you can't be a champion for teachers. We want to facilitate them, but you got to be a champion for kids. You got to focus on the client system. If they don't come, teachers don't have a job. And so it's a culture shift, but you got to map it first. To Barry's point, he should have mapped it first. He's exactly right. He should have mapped their culture, and then you teach them and work with them through the lens of that. Again, AI is a quick and easy way. Using one of the AI programs is a way for you to be able to map it and turn it around much quicker rather than come back next month because they forgot what you did this month. You're able to do that. Our case study. What are your thoughts on our case study as we go into? I'm running, but we'll be fine. What was your thoughts? And so let me share my screen. I summarized it I put it under week 3. I did that. I didn't want to put it in before we talked about it. Let me see. Under week 3, I believe I've done a couple things for you under week 3. Here's my gift to you this week. I have summarized DAF, your reading that you were supposed to have done by this week, chapters 1 through 4 in DAF. I have summarized that for you, the main points. So if you didn't know what was important, I told you. And then I have summarized your case study for you as well. So let's look at our case study. Here's the summary of the case. Here's some questions that come out of that. And so who wants to lead us off on a quick discussion of this case? So we've got a young leader, and you know, his boss has brought in you as a consultant. And he's obviously, I think, what was his name, Jared? He's obviously having some problems. First problem that I've already identified is he's not authentic. He's basically two selves. He has the one where he wants to reward them and do those kinds of things, but on the other end, he wants to punish them and micromanage them. He humiliates them in meetings, and so he's not the same person. He's you know, again, he doesn't understand. You as a leader, you must be the same every day. You must be authentic, whatever your authenticity is, good, bad, or otherwise. It must be the same. Otherwise, your followers are always on pins and needles. They don't know which one they're going to get today, or this hour, or this meeting. Are you going to be the one that wants to take them to lunch, or are you going to be the one that wants to scream at them in front of everybody else? Not being authentic. That's his first problem. He doesn't understand the need to be an authentic leader. He has two different selves.
Dr. Lamb, would you would you additionally say that when he came in, because it said something about he came in, he saw the production levels and he immediately started changing. And so going back to what we were previously talking about, he didn't really read the culture. It would seem that way.
He did not. You know, he understood that he was supposed to make a good number go up, but he didn't. He just started changing immediately. Young leaders, emerging leaders tend to do that. They're in such a hurry. Why do you think, like, when you get, a new senator gets elected or a new college president gets appointed, why do you think they do a listening tour for 90 days, 6 months, or whatever? Leslie, speak to that.
Yeah, I was going to jump in and say, number one, it goes back to what we just talked about. You can't just come in and assume, number one, that you know the people and you know the culture and you know what has occurred. You may have the experience from another institution, organization, but you can't treat every organization the same. And so it's important to be able to listen to all of your stakeholders and to hear, all of their concerns. But I think one of the other problems that in this case study that Jared had is that he didn't want to listen to feedback about his leadership style or concerns that wasn't positive. And as a leader, you have to be able to hear, obviously in an appropriate professional way, but you have to be able to hear. I tell my assistant dean, I appreciate him because he checks me every day. He'll say, Dean B, I don't think that's a good idea for you to do that.
Yeah.
And I need that because I think that something may be a good suggestion or a good idea. And I need to hear from my team that can say to me in that honest way, hey, I don't think that's something that would be appropriate or good for our organization or for the students. Why don't you try something different? And I appreciate them doing that, but I also have to be able to hear them and be willing to receive that. And not all leaders are.
That's, again, it goes back to those two selves.
Mm-hmm.
that personal self, that again, not being authentic, you have to be that same leader every day. You don't get to take that leader hat off and today you can't bring self into it. And that's what he's doing. His self part wants to do the reward and wants to be loved and all that. The professional self doesn't want to hear feedback. We're going to do it my way. I don't care, and hasn't done that. And so if you can marry those two, you begin to see that I need feedback. It's not personal. I can't, I can't live through them, my personal life. I have to put that aside. I have to do what's right for, the client system and the organization. Many young leaders, when they come into a leadership role, they're still living two selves. They think they can do that. Oh, I can separate my public and private life. No, you can't. That's fool's errand. That's a damn fool thing to try. You got to be one authentic self where you're the same every day in every situation. You can't, when you assume a leadership role, it's 24/7, folks. You don't get to not be that leader. You're always that person. You're always that leader.
Well, and
You
I
have
think
to
too,
merge those.
I think too, you have to be willing to be vulnerable in front of the people that you lead, because that's being authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone can do that, and may see it as a sign of weakness, but it's important that you can do that.
Now, the chief among that, and what Leslie just said, is being able to say, I don't know. But I'll find out. How many young leaders have you seen, or we'll say neophyte leaders, regardless of their age, who would never say, I don't know? One of the things that I see a lot is people will ask a question, and now that we don't do a lot, we don't do as much face-to-face as we used to. We use electronic communication, that you get ghosted. You ask them something they don't know, you don't hear back. They don't text you back. They don't call you back. They don't email you back. Instead of saying, I don't know, I'll get right back with you. They just ghost you. Lack of, and we think that's lack of communication. In a way, it is, but the bigger part is, Leslie just pointed out, is that I can't be vulnerable. I can't show weakness. I must know everything. I must have all the answers all the time. It has to be my way or the highway. I'm going to change things regardless of, without knowing what to do or whatever. That's all that's all symptomatic of not understanding that leadership is a function, not a position. That's what it all circles back to. You lead from where you are. We started this conversation today. You can lead from wherever you are, but leadership is a series of activities. It's not a title. And once you understand that, you can say, I don't know, but I'll find out. Or what do you think? That's another sign. The second sign of vulnerability is when you ask people, what do you think? Is this working? Should we do this? I don't know what to do. Do you have a better idea? Let's think about this. Here's our problem. That's what we're talking about here, is that vulnerability side. I don't know. I need to ask you. I'm not, is it, bringing these people in and growing their little e empowerment. And then, empowering them to be, assume leadership in the organization. So when you're sitting there with the people that you lead, that they assume an authoritative role or a leadership role as well. You empower them. What do you think? Should we do this? What's your idea on that? That's what we're talking about. That shows vulnerability, but that's part of that servant leadership. You can't always, it's my way or the highway. It's very transactional. Transactional leaders, they lead through punishment and reward. Nobody ever likes working for them. Nobody. They have trouble keeping employees. Well, I could pay them more. Working conditions will outrun pay, folks. If you're a transactional leader, you can't show weakness, if you can't be vulnerable, if you can't be authentic, you will not keep employees. So what are we going to tell Jared's boss to do with him? They called you in. What are you going to do now, hero? They called you in. Got a problem with Jared over here. What are we going to do?
Well, I think that Jared needs to be on some sort of performance plan.
There you go.
And
We
he
got to get
needs-
us an action plan. MTSS
Correct.
for teachers. That's
Yes.
exactly right, Leslie. We start with an action plan, a professional growth plan.
Yep.
But it's an action plan that has action steps to grow him where he needs to be. Unfortunately, it also has the legal part built in. If he doesn't achieve those steps, it's going to be new ox time. We can't keep him if we lose everybody that's underneath him. How smart is it? We're going to keep Jared. We're committed to Jared. We just lost 20 people in his department. Maybe we're not committed to Jared. you know, greater good here, folks. We want to grow this young leader. But if he doesn't take the necessary steps, we have to make sure that this action plan is a growth plan that has the legal steps that we're going to have to let you go. We can't keep you and lose everybody in your department. That's not smart organizationally. We want you to be successful. We've got a plan here for you to be successful. Now, if you can't participate in this plan, 14.5, Luke, new ox. As we go to break here, let me show you mine. This is for a teacher. I'll show you exactly what Leslie just said. It's almost like I do this for a living, isn't it? Right here it is. We're going to start the first day of school. We're going to do this. Here's all the things that we're going to do. Whole group, small group. We're going to do one-on-one, and we have an actual what we're going to do on the one-on-one. And we're going to give them a half a year, these young leaders that we've hired. And if they're not responding, if they're not doing this, and here's what we're going to have them do. I need to show you that as well. I mean, we're not just going to say get better. This is what we're going to work on right here. This is research based, by the way. It's not just we just sat around and just made stuff up. Right here's what we're going to do. How it looks, and we're going to work with them on these 9 high yield strategies right here. And here's all the work. Here's the stuff that goes with it. We've got an absolute plan of how we're going to whole group them so that they understand high yield strategies. Marzano, how to deliver what we want them to deliver, become leaders in their classroom. We're going to work on it in our planning and PLCs and small group, and we're going to give them one-on-one coaching for 6 months to have them start to adapt and adopt those high yield strategies in their classroom. We've got an absolute plan that's tailored to them. I just showed you the framework, and then we tailor one to them. But at mid-year, we put them on an action. We move that growth plan to an action plan. Legally, we can do that. And then we follow up for another 6 months. But now there are consequences if they don't adopt those practices and do the things that we need for them to do. They're called high yield strategies for a reason. They yield higher results at test time. That's why they're called high yield strategies. Robert Marzano and the Midwest McReal Consortium is what we use for that. It's research based. It's the best stuff out there. It's the best stuff out there for classroom teachers, for them to become leaders in their own classroom. to get the job done that we need for them to do. And if we have folks who will not adopt those practices, who will not learn and integrate those things into their instructional program, at the end of 1 year, we have to part ways. New ops. You've got to grow these people where they need to be. You've got to make the commitment to do that, but there also has to be consequences if they don't. And they have to understand that during that critical conversation up front. I just used the school example. I've got a couple of organizational examples, but we're late to our break already. But the notion here is that somebody like Jared, you got to grow him. But if he can't, or if he's unwilling or can't grow, and it's going to be hard for transactional people because again, he's living two different selves right now. And it's going to be very hard to move a transactional leader over to a transformational or a servant leader. I'll just tell you that right now. It's the hardest thing that you'll have to do in leadership. People who are rooted in punish and reward, it's hard to get them out of it. Transactional reward and punishment. It's very hard to get them out of that. And you can do it if you have a plan, but you must be willing to move on from them if you can. And that's why that's our first case study. And the notion here is leaders, this closes our section. Leaders have to make hard decisions. They have to assess themselves. You have to be brutally honest. You must confront you must confront the brutal facts. You have to confront them about yourself, but also about your employees. That's the downside of leadership is that, you have to make these kinds of decisions. You do everything you can to support your employees, but in the end, if they cannot or will not, it doesn't matter if they can't or won't. All that matters is they don't. Let me say that again. It doesn't matter if they can't or won't. All you can be concerned is they don't meet the standards that you need for them to meet. And then you've done everything that you can do to get them there, but you must be willing, for the sake of the organization and the clients, to part ways with those people at the end. To close this segment, I tell young emerging school administrators all the time, you cannot lead a school until you can let somebody go, a good person who can't teach, because that's our core. What do they do? When you go around the bend, when you're going on 40, you go west to east till you get to Raleigh, then you turn south on 40 and head to Wilmington. First exit on the right on the backside of Garner is Jones Sausage Road. I had a bunch of interns over there at that school. You know what they do at Jones Sausage? They make sausage. You know what we do in school? We teach kids. You can't keep people who can't deliver your core competency. You can't. Whatever that core competency is, whether it's overall in a school like instruction or cleaning the classroom or driving the bus or keeping dormitories clean or having activities, whatever your core competency is, if the people that you have hired can't deliver that, you must either fix them, or you have to part ways with them. Doesn't matter if they can't or won't. If they don't, it's your responsibility to fix it. If you can't fix it, it's your responsibility to move on. All right, let's be back on at 20 minutes to 12 for our last segment today. Thank you again for being with us. All right, we're back. Everybody go, woo, this is the last segment. We made it. All right, let's feedback our first two segments today when we did our content from our first 3 weeks. Did you learn anything? Was anything new or different? What's your takeaway on content from the first 3 weeks?
It's a lot.
Well, go ahead, Barry.
No, please go ahead, Matt. I can go
No,
ahead.
Go ahead, after you.
Actually, because I have so much to say, I mean, I have a lot to work through. So you please go ahead. I don't have a lot to say. I have a lot to work through.
Well, I think those first two chapters around effective and efficiency were really foundational for how we start to look at these other chapters. So starting to look in how complex really organizations are. I thought one of my takeaways was, yeah, they are a social environment, which can be very challenging. And I think looking at these different structures, because I can say the organization I'm in right now is very much that vertical structure. So I'm excited to learn a little bit more on how these hybrid kinds of approaches, and I was sharing with my wife today, one thing I'll share is that as we have had to shift to using a lot of suppliers for teachers as well as service providers, our role with having a lot of contract service companies that we work with, so we have contract services for lots of different folks, present a lot of challenges, but it is clear that that is the way we are going. Subs, we use, Kelly subs, supply subs, but it's way beyond that now. We're working with other companies that are supplying therapists. I think we are going to then end up having to work with suppliers around teachers. So I'm interested a lot in how this shift towards how our organization is moving to being much more interconnected with other types of organizations. So those are my takeaways.
Excellent. That's that open closed. We're going to have to all become open. We've been running a lot of closed organizations where we did it all ourselves. We recruited, we HR'd, we background, we did it all ourselves. We're going to have to become more open in organizations where we're interconnected and depend on others, but we're not going to survive if we stay closed. That's the whole notion. And Matt's right. We're going to have to hybrid to start with, but the notion is eventually we'll become completely open. If we don't, we won't survive. So that's excellent. Again, under week 3, I have summarized the first 4 chapters, what's important, and Matt just went over that. Again, effective, efficient, open, closed, hierarchical structure, horizontal versus vertical. All of those concepts are foundational, which is going to lead me to our last section we talk about today. I need y'all to learn something in the first 4 courses. So when I get you in methodology, you'll know something. People worry about that they want to jump into dissertation right away and partnering right away. Just learn something first in your foundational. Your first 4 courses are foundation. You'll have a leadership one where you'll explore all the different leadership philosophies and theories. If you come to, I don't care if you know the first thing about methodology when I get you in methodology. The quantitative part, we just run that in the computer anyway. I mean, you don't need to know how the sausage is made. You just want to eat breakfast. And so that part, don't worry about that part. Know something, learn something in your foundational courses and build on those each semester. And then when you get to methodology, it'll be easy in terms of knowing what you want to do. That's the biggest thing, is knowing what you want to do. I'll teach you how to do it. That's not hard. If I can learn it, you can. And so I'm not worried about that piece of it. What I worry is when students get to methodology, they don't have any knowledge to apply the methodology to. So, my advice again, learn something the first 4 semesters in your foundational courses. It's kind of like we were talking about earlier today. We'll teach you the operational piece later. Learn all the theoretical stuff, the curriculum stuff to start with, and then we'll teach you how to apply it when we get to methodology. So, excellent point. All right, Barry, the floor is yours.
So really, for me, a couple things. I think the most important thing for me was looking at the organic organization versus mechanistic. And then I really started thinking about myself because I'm a baby buster. So I'm right between that generation that's really formalized and that generation that's more into the organic. And so just kind of really considering where I fit into that, because there's some parts of me that are very traditional when I appreciate the centralized structure, but then there are parts of me that appreciates the organic structure. So just trying to navigate that, because looking at the world and how complicated it was, it is now, it's not, as I said earlier, it's not a one size fit all. So how do I navigate this time? Because it's not what it used to be.
Yeah.
And this is not the world that I grew up in. So how do I fit in this world?
Mm-hmm.
If that, yeah, that's been a concern. Just looking at that, I was like, wow. So I'm not necessarily old, but I'm not necessarily young either. So
Well,
it's
I don't have that problem. I know I'm old.
so just kind of figuring out how do I fit, because I know there's some parts of me that are very much formal, that mechanistic side appeals to me, but then there are some parts of me that, you know, the organic appeal. So how do I navigate those waters?
So, Barry, this is not about me. I use myself as always as the bad example, but you got to know who you are, and you got to learn and work and develop your skill set and your toolbox. You can't lead anybody else until you can lead yourself. You've got to expand your repertoire of skills, and that's the only way that you can lead others. You got to know who you are, and you've got to figure out where you fit. Now, I'm not chastising you. I mean, if you knew that, you wouldn't be here, you know, with us if you were there. And so the journey in the first 4 semesters is to get you knowing who you are and where you are, and where your blind sides are and what you've got to work on yourself. That's the whole notion. Is you've got to expand your repertoire, your skill set. You've got to fill up your toolbox before you can lead anybody else effectively. That's the whole notion here. You know, students ask me all the time, how long is this going to take? When we were working in dissertation, I don't know. I know how smart I am. I'm not the one in question. It's you. You know, if you will learn something, it's not going to take as long. You know, I could do this in a day. But when they're not asking me to do it, we're asking you to do it. And so, you know, you've got to develop that. So it's completely natural and normal that when you come in, the best part of this is, Barry, and to your benefit, you recognize that you have deficiencies in your skill set, and that's everybody does, because their age and experience related. And adapting to a new environment, you know, the notion, just like we'll use AI as an example, the solution is not to ban it. The solution is to learn how to harness it and use it yourself. Every time we get some new technology, you know, let's get in there and dive in. Let's make sure that we know what we're doing. You know, be open to new things, change, you know, grow, acquire new skill sets all the time that will benefit your followers. So it's natural to feel that, but, you know, work on it. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're working to expand your repertoire and your skill set. Folks, other feedback on the first 3 weeks of content?
I think there were, I mean, things that certainly in working in organizations for a long time that I think I resonated with, and as I was reading it, I could say, yes, I've lived through this. I know what this is. But the biggest piece for me was being able to do the exercise for the discussion board on effective versus efficient. Because again, I could explain to you examples of when I've been in situations that would fit in that particular lens. But as Matt said, to have the theory and the framework to better understand it was extremely helpful.
Again, learn something. Great. And then you can apply it. If you know the theoretical and the frameworks, When we get to the operational, which starts in 738, starts the operational. It's basically this program's in two halves. It's a theoretical, the first four, and then the operational starts in year fifth. And to Leslie's point, if you haven't learned these frameworks, if you haven't learned how to, we can't operationalize it later. You will not be successful at your dissertation, because your dissertation is operationalizing the content of the first four semesters. That's the whole notion of the dissertation, is that you actually go out and do this now, that you operational. And so people ask me all the time, what is a dissertation in practice? It's just action research. It means one problem with one organization, and you have to take all the things that you've learned to help them. Now, you say, but I don't know who I'm going to partner with. You don't need to know. Don't even think about that until the beginning of the second year. Next year at this time, start looking for an organization, because you'll have a really good notion of organizations and structures and frameworks and all those things. And you'll be able at that time to make a informed decision about who you want to partner with, to gather your data and help them with a significant challenge or problem. That's the notion here. But you can't help anybody if you don't know what you're doing. You're just another problem at their place. We want to add value, and the value you add is your knowledge. I don't want you filling up the coffee machine or the drink machine or getting coffee. I want you to be able to help them with a challenge that they have based on the knowledge that you have. We'll operationalize that knowledge in the second half. That's what we'll do, where you can actually do those things. Other feedback, I'm not looking for pats on the back or kudos. I'm again, feedback. I mean, it's,
Dr. Lamb, if you can allow me to share my experience.
Yes, please do.
Thank you very much. I want to say that as much as I've basically delayed in submitting and sharing my ideas, I've been able to go through the notes that you've shared and the videos on leadership. And what has struck me most is that I'm looking forward to benefit from this course in terms of just harnessing my leadership skills. And what struck me most was the journal on nature of organizational leadership, and basically having a legit leader, or a leader who is able to lead followers. And as I'm going through the journals, I'm looking at my case study. And already I've identified, because there are so many challenges that public universities in my country, in Kenya, are currently facing. Almost all of them are on their knees because they're not able to survive. And my question has always been, where is the problem? Is the problem the workforce, or the problem is the leader? And so moving forward with this course, I want to believe that in my dissertation, I'll be able to identify the gaps, and the results will be a plus even to my university in terms of improving the gaps moving forward. So I've really enjoyed listening to the videos, reading the journals, and of course, just getting to see the culture. It's a very big difference in Africa compared to the background in the US. So it's completely an overhaul, I would say, on my end. But moving forward, I want to borrow from what I'm learning just to implement it back home. And so I'm looking forward to just being a vessel that will bring change based on the course that I'm currently taking, and of course, the interaction with the team and you as our coach. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is Vera. Vera finished with me. She's in the EDLS program. I do methodology, and I have doctorals in other two programs. Vera finished with me on May the 4th. And to your point, Brenda, that's what she's doing is she did, even though she's in EDLS, she did action research, and she came up with an action plan to fill in the gaps in leadership training. It's exactly what you're talking about. That's what she did. And you know, she not only, when she finished her dissertation, had a set of recommendations, just like, even though she's an EDLS and they don't normally do it, you will have an actual action plan. That's what, again, dissertation and practice, what do we do that's different than a regular? We do 5 chapters, everything, but we do one step further. When we get to chapter 5 and we have a set of recommendations, we actually put it in a plan and we hand it to our partner and say, here's what you need to do. I'm an expert in this. I have done, you know, I did all my theoretical work, my curriculum work. I've done my operational. I've learned to be a researcher. I've collected data at your organization. Here's a set of recommendations, but more importantly, here's how you can do that. And that's exactly what, Brenda, we hope that you're able to do, to take back to your country, to your university, and say, here's a plan, not just suggestions or recommendations. Here's a plan on how to fix this. That's what a dissertation in practice is. In practice, one organization, one problem, but we not only give them recommendations, we give them a plan to fix it at the end. That's the gold there. That's the good stuff in this program. That's what I love. I love action research. My shortcomings are on the curriculum side. I am an operational person. I want to see stuff happen. When we do those, you know, one of the things we do in leadership classes is we do that. What do we call it? Which direction are you? The directional leadership approach. Are you a North Star, an East, West, or a South? I'm a North, folks. That means if you came to me and said, we need to get up on the roof, I wouldn't ask you why. What I'd say is, I know a man's got a ladder. Yeah. I don't need to know why we're getting up there. I don't need to know the curriculum part. I'm an operational guy. When you come to me, I'm gonna get you a ladder. Let's go. And so that's what I love about action research is let's go. Let's fix this problem. Let's operationalize this. Let's get us an action plan. Let's do our research. Let's do our disciplined inquiry, as we call it, our inquiry. Let's do our disciplined inquiry. Let's follow the rules. Let's collect our data. Let's analyze it. Let's do our statistical analysis. But then let's operationalize this thing. Let's go do it. Now, you won't be required for them to actually implement your plan. Your job is to hand them the plan. And I generally tell students, don't get involved in the implementation until after you finish your doctorate. We don't want this. You don't want to be as old as I am when you get done. You know, again, my job is to get you through in 3 years. If we get into operationalizing it while it sometimes detract from finishing up and you get delayed. I don't want you to get delayed. Now, I want you to help them if you want to. If you want to help them implement it, that's after you finish your dissertation. And once we're done, you can do that. But don't let that get in the way of finishing your dissertation. I had a student a few years back, Terrence, and he was working in his church, and they got so busy he couldn't get his last chapters written up. And it took him an extra year. But now he felt the calling in his church as their pastor to put these things in. But you know, there's only so much time. As I remind my wife quite frequently, and she really loves it when I do this, there's a time-space continuum that's in physics that's not changed since I had it 45 years ago. You can only be in one place at one time, and I'm just one man. And so when you start actualizing, putting these action plans into place, you run the risk of not getting your last 2 chapters knocked out. And so or your last chapter, and that's what worries me. So I always advise students, don't, yes, if you want to get involved with them or they want you to, or you feel the calling to do that, to actually put that plan in place, that's a good thing. But don't let it get in the way of chapter 5, your final defense and all that stuff. Now, Terrence, again, it was his church. He was the pastor. He felt that need, and he was willing to delay a year. But unless you're willing to delay a year or a half year, don't get involved in that. Remember, you're paying for this. And so that would be my advice. But Brenda, that's excellent. We want you to have a plan to take back to your country, to your university, and say, here's what you can do to do what we need to do in this organization to serve the people that we need to serve. Absolutely, I want you to have an action plan at the end. Let's talk about dissertation. First 4 courses are foundational. The last are operational. You get to 738, you will learn how to conduct quantitative and qualitative research. Now, as I said, you don't need a partner until your 4th course. If you get one before then, that's fine, but there's not much you can do between now and then other than fill up the drink machine or put paper in the copy machine. You're not an intern. You're not going to an organization to be get coffee and be a help. You are a consultant. You're there for a specific identified problem to gather data to answer that problem, to help them and come up with recommendations and a plan, because it's action research. That means action plan at the end. It's kind of funny how that works. Students make the mistake of partnering too early, not knowing what the problem is, not being able to do anything, and then kind of wear out their welcome. Or they put you to work as an unpaid intern. That is not the point of this. And so you really need to understand what a dissertation is. And to do that, the first step before, you will do this in 738, but I want you to do it now. So let me share my screen. I want you to know what the rules of the road are in data and doing research. So under week 1, I've got Royce chapter 2, which is one of the textbooks from 738. But what that is IRB. Gardner-Webb has an institutional review board, an office of research. It's headed by Dr. Sydney Brown. She is the dean of the graduate school at Gardner-Webb University. And she has to, and her group have to approve any research that we do. So you'll write your first 3 chapters, you'll defend it, and then we'll take it to IRB. Now, one of the good things about action research is we'll have our surveys and our data collection instruments, and that will be a part of our first 3 chapters and our proposal defense, and that's what we'll take to them. But one of the beautiful things about the DEOL program and action research is we're partnering with our organization, one problem. And so we make sure that we know before we start that they're going to let us do this. Now, we have to know the rules of the road on how we collect data, and it's all right here, institutional review boards, what they do, and here's all the Belmont report, and all this stuff. And you need to review this and go through all this PowerPoint. I won't do it this morning. Because then, as a researcher at Gardner-Webb, you must get licensed to be a researcher before you can be a researcher. The license that we require is called CITI-IRB. So when you click on that, let's see if mine's still up and working. You're going to go to this site. You're going to put your Gardner-Webb username and password that you use to go in. You're going to log into CI, and they're going to give you a little instructional. You're going to review your courses for Gardner-Webb, graduate school researchers, and you can see mine's on refresher, but here are the modules. You're going to do the ones required and elected modules for graduate school researchers, and you can see the same stuff here. There's 16 modules that's in that PowerPoint that if you'll read it first, then you can breeze through these 16 modules. Now, when I say breeze through, I do this every day for a living. It takes me 4 hours. You got to pass each module, 16 modules. You got to pass. Now, you don't have to do it today, but this semester, I want you to work on these modules. You got all semester long. It'll take you somewhere around 6 hours total. But you got to have this license, this certificate, before you can be a researcher at Gardner-Webb. Now, we always make you do it later on in the program. I'd like for you to do it up front because I want you to know the rules of the road. It will help you when you're doing your foundational work if you know what the rules of data collection and research are. You can put them in context. What you're learning foundationally, if you put it in context of research, when you get to the second half, You'll know, yeah, I can do that. No, I can't do that. Yes, I can get that data. No, I can't get that data. And it will help us formulate what you want to do in your research. You need the context of IRB as you start this. That's what Leslie was talking about. You need a context. That's what she was referring to. This is helping her put her thoughts and her experiences in context. You got to add IRB to this. Because we can't just say, well, that'd be good to know. Well, can we get that data? No. Did I tell you earlier about the research project? They wanted to find out why the students weren't coming to Gardner Webb. Did I tell you that one earlier today? All right. They pulled what they called the Geek Squad together a few years back. Former administration pulled the Geek Squad together, the guys that do this. They said, we got this idea. And I said, oh, it's never good. That's kind of like when I played outside linebacker. Don't think you're hurting the team. We need for you to stick your head in the tight end's ribs when he comes across the middle. We don't need for you to think. Outside linebacker has to cover the flat pass. We don't need you to think. And so this group got together. It was high-level folks at Gardner Webb, vice presidents, and said, we're concerned. We admitted 800 freshmen for the fall, and only 386 showed up. We want to know why that other 400 didn't show up. So we have devised this research design. We want you to comment on how we can do this. And they said, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to University 111, and we're going to survey and interview the 386 that showed up to try to find out why the other 400 didn't show up. Anybody see a problem with that? Hell, they don't know. They'd just be guessing like I would. If you want to know why the 400 didn't show up, who would you have to ask? The 400 that didn't show up. See, the population was all admitted students, but there was two samples, one that showed up and one didn't. The ones that did show up in research, we call that a convenience sample. They're convenient, but they're not appropriate. And what we figured out is, and I had to explain to them, you have no way to get the other folks to participate. They didn't come. You can't compel them to participate in your study, and they won't. What are you going to do now, hero? They said, well, but we had this wonderful idea. We had this initiative. What are we going to do now? I said, not this. This is not going to help you. And so that was the end of that. And that's absolutely a true story, by the way. I'm not making that up. I'm not embellishing it. That they had a great idea. They just didn't have the context of data collection, IRB, and all these rules and all that stuff. These people, we can't violate their privacy. If they came to us, we could do that. But privacy laws prevents us from contacting them if they're not our student. I have had people who say, I'm going to collect data. I've already collected data. No, until IRB approves it, you collect no data. We actually had a dean that was in this program a few years back who collected data on students. Oh my God. And then she was upset when we told her, no, can't do that. Those of you who, Matt works with, if you know anything about exceptional children, FERPA laws, you can't do anything with them. Absolutely nothing. You can't collect data from them. No, you can't collect any of their data. It's all confidential. Even if it doesn't come directly from them, you can't have any of their data. You can't work with minors. You can't work with anybody that's under duress, prisoners, people like that. You got to understand the rules of the road. It puts your foundational courses in context. I know it's going to take 6 hours to do it, but you've got all semester. And you can stop at any time. You can do a module, take you about 15 to 20, 30 minutes. But if you'll read the PowerPoint first and get an overall understanding, it'll go a lot quicker. It goes along with what you're going to be doing. But you got to pass those 16 modules. But trust me, you will be so much better grounded in terms of what you're going to do later on if you learn that along with and put your foundational stuff in context. So that's my suggestion to you, is make sure that you've done that. All right, now what is a dissertation? It's 5 chapters. Mhm. Yours is going to kind of look like one of my Magnificent Seven from this. It's going to be 5 chapters. Here's what the 5 chapters look like. For you, chapter 1's your introduction, you know, who your partner is, their organizational context. You have to give us the background and the setting. You do an organizational analysis. We have you put, you know, you do a couple of things along the way. Myself as a leader, myself as a project manager, you can drop that in there. If we don't have you do that, that's okay. That's more context. And then the significant challenge. What is their problem? And then you develop research questions out of that. You'll learn this in 738. You know, what questions do you know, what questions do you have research wise? And then what data would we need to do that? We do our literature review of organizations, their particular, their context, their content. We do theoretical framework. You know, what theory guides our practice, and we'll talk about that. And then we do methodology. You'll probably do mixed, either convergent or explanatory. You'll learn that later. We do results, recommendations, and then here's our action plan. So that's what your dissertation is going to look like. Let me see what else I got. And here's kind of, you know, a quick and dirty on that. What's the problem I'm seeking to address, and why is it important? That's why we call it the significant challenge. What's my hypothesis or research questions? What am I trying to answer by my data collection? And then my literature review, again, we talk about the problem, the organization, but you know, the theoretical framework. What is a theoretical framework? Here are the 5 most common that everything else comes out of. Everything else comes out of this. Now, there's a lot more modern stuff, but the notion here is in organizations, our problems are either going to be people, process, or product. Let me say that again. In organization, our significant challenge is either going to be people, process, or product. Here are the 5 major theoretical frameworks that guide organizational research. Kurt Lewin's change theory, Hertzberg 2-factor, I've already talked about that. That's of motivation, satisfaction. That's employee retention. Maslow's higher order of needs, we talked about that. They need to be actualized. Arger's double loop. And then Getzell's Google social systems, Collins bus is a later version of that. And so you're going to, now, let me stop. People ask me all the time, what's the difference between a theoretical framework and a conceptual framework? One versus 2. Theoretical framework is you're working off one theorist. A conceptual is 2 theorists working in combination. A lot of times we work Hertzberg with Maslow. You know, these people need to be self-actualized. Are we doing the things, you know, the good things that motivate them so they can be self-actualized, like giving them autonomy and those kinds of things? So a theoretical framework is one theorist. We'll use Hertzberg. There's things that make people stay and go. We got to figure out what makes them happy and what makes them mad. And we got to do more of the things that make them happy and less of the things that make them mad. It's pretty simple. That's our theoretical framework. Conceptual is 2 or more. Arger's is double loop is the theory of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Heard that before? That's Chris Arger's double loop theory. That we don't learn from what we do, we just keep doing the same thing. We never assess what we do, but we expect the outcome to change. We do the same things. We never assess our process. That's a process. That speaks to Hertzberg, Maslow speak to people. Remember, all problems are either people, process, or product. Maslow, Hertzberg speak to people. Why they stay, why they go. Archer speaks to the process. You didn't change your process. Why do you think your outcome was going to change? Well, I changed the people. New people now do the same thing they always did. Or, you know, The extension of that is what we used to call the CMS way, the 17 years I worked in Charlotte, or what's commonly known as the theory of stupidity. Hire more people to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. You know, that's a process one. Again, people, process, product. Your theoretical framework has to match your problem. And so, and then you've got Collins, and which is an extension of Get Sales Google, which is what people want to do every day is what is what the organization needs for them to do every day. That one goes into process, into product. So we pick the theoretical framework that fits your significant challenge. It's easy. And then there's a lot later people, more modern, Bandura, all those other people that, the 7S and all that kind of thing, Kinsey, 7S. They all are rooted in the original grounded theory of these 5 people. You'll mention them, but then you'll do more modern stuff. Again, Barry's talking about we got to be more modern in our approach. Yeah, all these people are, Lewin's change theory is from the 40s. Get Sales and Gubas from the 50s. Hertzberg's from the 40s. But there's later stuff that build on their work is where this will take you. But, your theoretical framework guides, it guides your research and what we do, but it's based on what your challenge is. Pretty simple. This is not hard stuff. And then when we get to methodology, probably going to do either mixed explanatory or mixed convergent. We don't do mixed exploratory. That's theoretical. We're doing action research. So what is mixed? Mixed means we do quantitative work. Quantitative is how many. We collect quantitative data, usually survey through Qualtrics. You have a Qualtrics account. You will find it at the same place where you find email and Blackboard. I'll show you that in just a minute. And I am the Qualtrics person. So that's, we'll build surveys. We'll give them to our partnering organization, just like, Monique this morning. What can't you live with in this survey? And we work with them. And so we do survey first, generally, to collect data. That's our quantitative. And then qualitative is we either do focus groups or interviews. Now, full disclosure, I am not a focus group person. I don't like focus groups because generally you end up with bimodal population or bimodal sample, excuse me. And either everybody's singing out the same songbook, everybody's yes men, or they're fist fighting, one or the other. So I try to avoid focus groups as much as I can. I prefer interviews. But that's the qualitative part. So if we were in a convergent design, we would survey and then we would ask questions to see if they match. That's convergent. If we did an explanatory design, we'd do a survey and then we would ask people why. Why is these numbers this way? That would be an explanatory design. Pretty simple. This is really simple stuff. But we'll get there. But writing a dissertation is not hard. It's very formulaic. If you know something, problem comes in if you don't have any foundation. You don't know what to do. You're undecided. You don't know what direction to go. I don't have time for that, folks. If you don't know what to do, I'll tell you what to do. If it gets to that, I'm not kidding. If you're going to finish on time and I have to get you there, let me. So I was working with Whitney. She's about ready to defend. Looks good. Let's see. Thank you so much. I told her exactly what I wanted to do. Add 2 to 3 pages on transformation immediately after servant. 1 page where you compare and contrast servant and transformation. 1 page on servant, why it best fits your study. I'll tell you exactly what to do. I will build your surveys. I will formulate them. Right here, I'll tell you exactly what I want in each section. If you don't have it, if you don't know what you want to do, I'll tell you what to do. You know, either way, it's fine with me. And so let's see. Right here, your questions were phenomenal. She didn't know what she wanted to ask. I do. Do I have clearance to share with the organization for their? Absolutely. So again, if you don't know what to do, I'll tell you. I'll outline all 3 chapters and send it to you. Here's what I want. I'd like for you to do that. I'd like for you to learn something foundationally where you can do that. If you don't, I will. You know, if you want to go, we're going to go. Now, if you want to take time and, you know, take 4 or 5 years, that's up to you. Just tell me. But if you want to finish in 3 years, learn something in your foundational courses, you know, understand the IRB, what we can and can't do. Find an organization, then identify a problem, pick a theoretical framework that fits it, and a methodology of, you know, some research questions that we're going to ask. What do we want to know? What will fix their problem, and how? And then I'll tell you what method, and then know what methodology, that, you know, what data we need to answer those questions, and then we'll run it. Off we go. That's the process, folks. It all starts with your foundational knowledge. I already know this stuff, or pretend to. And so this is not, but if I have to tell you what to do, I will. I'm not one of those chairs that says, well, you know, think about it another. Don't think, you're hurting the team. If you don't know, I do, and we're going to go. Don't embarrass me, shouldn't embarrass you. But if you want to have more, if you want to be more directed and you want to be, you know, if you want this to be yours and you want to, I love that. I'll just, you know, I'll stand on the sideline. But if you need for me to, I'll carry you, one under each arm. I mean, that's the way this has to go, folks. If you want to finish in 3 years, we will, one way or the other. Now, if you want, you like Terrence and you want to finish in 4, let me know up front. But now, you know, when you signed up, I signed up along with you for us to do this in 3 years. They'll make me retire one of these days or run me off. But I'm, you know, taking y'all is a 3-year commitment, and I made a commitment. If they'll have me, I've committed to stay for 3 years, even though I'm well in time that I could go home past the time. But I will not take another group after you. I'll just tell you that right now. I will not. You'll be my last group. But I want us to get done in 3 years now. I promised my wife 3 more. It's not that she wants me at home. She just needs stuff done. So I have promised her that you will be the last group that I take. So I can come home. Now, you know, I stay. When I leave for Gardner Webb at the first of the week, I stay all week. I don't come home. I don't come home until the weekend. I don't have time. I've got a place to stay, and I go, and that's what we do until I go to sleep. When I get up, we start again. So I am available. The only time I'm off the air is 12:30 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. After that, I am on the air. I was high school principal for a long time. I get up 4:30 every morning. I still wake up at 4:30, just, you know, sleep like a baby. I wake up every 2 hours, need to pee and cry. So I'm up at 4:30 every morning. My time is your time. I come home on the weekends to teach in Charlotte or online. The only time I'm home is on the weekend. I'm here Saturday and Sunday. I come home late Friday. I was on campus till late Friday. I'm not being boastful, but this is what I do. This is my hobby. This is, you know, my job. This is my ministry. This is everything to me. And whatever it does, whatever it takes is what we do. This is the benediction, folks. I'm no Baptist. You should hear just as I am playing in the background right now. Yeah, come on down. And so I need for you, as we close today, I told you we'd finish early. I need for you to be as committed as I am. So my last story of the day is the pig. I got another pig story for later, but today's the short story on the pig. You know the difference. This morning when you had breakfast, you understood that the chicken that laid the egg was involved in your breakfast. The pig that gave his life for the sausage, he was committed. He gave his life. I need for you to give your life. I need for you to have that level of commitment to write a dissertation. It is not easy. It is time consuming. It will test every part of your fiber of your being. But if you're committed, you'll be the next magnificent seven, that all seven of you cross the finish line. 2 summers from now, whenever that is, the last summer you're in. That's the commitment that you've got to make today. Today, you've got to make that commitment that we're all going to walk. You know, we're going to be at graduation. We're going to hug babies. We're going to meet families. We're going to do all that stuff right here. You know, all my little groups, we're going to take pictures and we're going to celebrate. We're going to share. We're going to have the time of our lives at graduation. You know, she was with me through her master's program. You see, she's a tall girl. She was center of Mount Olive's basketball team. I had her in the master's program, and she stayed with me during the doctoral program. She's a true Gardner Webb story. She was pregnant and homeless, had a baby at 14. She has her doctorate. She's principal in Wayne County now. She's, as you can tell, she's a Lumbee Indian, which is, that's third world in North Carolina if you're a Lumbee Indian. But she had faith in Gardner Webb and us, and she has made it through. One of the proudest moments, if she was mine, I'd be the proudest man in town if she was my daughter. I can tell you that right now. She made that commitment. She stayed with us through her master's program, through her early career. We supported her in that, worked professional development at her school. She came back, did the doctoral program with us after incredible story, homeless, pregnant, baby at 14. And then a week before graduation, she had a stroke. I FaceTimed with her in the hospital. She had to delay her graduation to the next semester. She could not come in the spring. She graduated this past December. She had a stroke, stress of dissertation, but she made it. That's, I prayed. Well, I need to pray every day. I prayed every day over her. She's in the hospital. I just didn't, my point here is it's not about me. It's about you and the commitment that you've got to make. I will be here. I promise you that. I will be here. But you've got to promise yourself and make that commitment to yourself up front and understand how time consuming, how hard this is going to be. But it's not going to be hard because we don't know what to do. It's going to be hard because just to get it all done. That's the hard part. That's why I said, if you don't know, I do. And if I have to carry you, I will. But we're going to get done. Make that commitment. I appreciate the commitment of being with us, being with me today. I hope you found some value. Let's look at as we go out, we look at our schedule. I have it pulled up here somewhere if I can get everything out of the way. Here we go. So we've knocked out our first weeks, our first discussion boards. We've Zoomed today. Here are your assignments of what to do for the next couple of weeks. Our next time together will be the 23rd, which is 2 weeks from now. We'll meet in person at the Charlotte campus from 9 to 4. And then on Sunday from 9 to 1. We will be there. Here are some of the topics that we will be doing at that time. I'll have some other hopefully fun things. I'll bring coffee and breakfast. We'll figure out what we're going to do for lunch. And now on Sunday, we just eat a big breakfast on Sunday because I'm going to let you go at lunchtime. But we'll figure out what we're going to do. Either I'll turn you loose or we'll order out. I have an account. But, it's bad. You know it's bad when you got an account with Jason's Deli. But we'll figure out what we're going to do. But, the next time that we get together will be 2 weeks in Charlotte. I'm looking forward to seeing you then. I'll have things for us to do. Hopefully it will add value. You'll see that, that you didn't waste your time coming again. I will bring breakfast. We'll have breakfast at 9 o'clock on Saturday. At Sunday, we'll have breakfast, but we'll also on Sunday night, remember, we have devotion at 9 o'clock. If you're not, if that's not something that you're interested in, show up at 9:30. I don't require anybody to have to listen to me preach for 30 minutes. We all heard it. Had to hear me preach more of that today, but we will do our trilogy of servant leadership, integrity, and build your life on a foundation of faith. And again, I don't care what faith you are. My favorite, as we close out today, if I can find the picture, I can never find the, oh, there it is. Look at me. One of my favorite doctorals ever, maybe other than Winter, was Razan. She's Muslim. I don't care that she's Muslim. Her faith is stronger than mine. And that's what will carry you through. That's the last of the trilogy. Your faith is what will carry you through. Whatever it is, find it now. Increase your faith, because that's what it's going to take to get you through this. It's not going to be easy. It'll skin you up. But I promise you, if you'll stick with us, we'll make it. I appreciate you being with me today. I truly do. I have more fun than you do. It's like Jackson Brown said, the only time that seems too short is the time we get to play. This is it. I love being with you. I will put the overview of the dissertation and timelines are in your 731 shell, the companion shell to our class. I'll go in and check and make sure that those didn't get knocked out when they had to do, I told you they had problems with our shells. They got them fixed yesterday. I noticed some this morning, some of the stuff was missing, but I'll make sure they're back in our 731. I'll put them in both shells just to make sure that we're fine. But they were originally in the 731 shell for a consultancy dissertation. Anything else today? Any news on the home front? Anything that for the good of the group before we go?
I just want to say thank you. I just want to say thank you.
Magnificent Seven. Y'all for good or for bad. Y'all are the new Magnificent Seven. Y'all need to bond together. You can bond over your hatred of me for all I care, but you need to bond. You're the new Magnificent Seven. I will see you in 2 weeks in Charlotte. I'll have breakfast. Everybody have a good rest of your weekend. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Lamb.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. God bless.